All right.
All right, see if this pops us up. It says I'm streaming.
Hello, YouTube.
We are good to go here with the tastiest of snackies.
I'm so tasty. I was bestowed that name by Magic Man Sam. I'm the tasty snack you will ever find in the land. How are you, Kevin?
Not bad. I've been better. I am hyped up on caffeine because the stupid Commander players would not leave my store. Not only would they not let me play, but they wouldn't leave my store because they had some 3-hour game where none of them can finish off the game because that's how I guess casual Commander games go. So yeah,
Jeez, brutal.
just been down in the voltages and eating the Cheez-Its.
Man,
The Cheez-Its. So I'm
I actually
all
just
good to health here.
got back from a Commander play session myself. We were playing. I was playing Mathis Fiend Seeker. An opponent was also playing Mathis, and then another one was playing Wart Raid Mother, but it was like a Chaos build. And then the other one was playing Jorian Spells. And I shit you not, the whole game was just Armageddon over and over and over again. And I had to leave. I couldn't stand watching my lands getting destroyed turn after turn.
Sounds miserable. That's what I
Yeah,
figured with
definitely.
Commander. It's always so hit and miss. Sometimes it's the best Magic experience of your life, and then other games are like, why the hell? Why the hell do I
Right?
play this format?
You get drugged through the dirt.
Yep. Alrighty, so what are we going to talk about today? I guess we can be open to the chat. I'll read your comments if there's any Q&As you want us to do, but we're gonna kind of trudge into the pile of crap that is Magic the Gathering at the moment, and start
Oh,
off kind of the topic that I guess we were discussing beforehand about, first of all, the community divide, where I think both sides are being ridiculous as usual, and maybe add some
yes.
perspective on someone being on the in. I used to be known in the community. This is before Tasty's day of kind of the middle grounder. That's how I kind of got my in with the group, like the Mana Source and Tulane Community College, and man, who used to be else? Darium CCG. Oh, what was
That's
Nicole?
a
The
ghost.
Bad Wolf MTG. There was a whole group of people that used to converse on Facebook, and I was kind of the middle of the roader that would kind of was friends with most of everyone, and that's where I got to be involved in some of the first drama, but that's a whole another can of worms for the other day. So I guess we'll get started off with the controversy of all controversy of the spike.
Oh God, yeah. Everyone's so excited about Unglued, but everyone can't shut up about Spike. And for good reason. I mean, not just the card art itself. I mean, I'm not against the card art. I'm not for it, but all this controversy surrounding it, and mostly from like people like Wizards themselves and other affiliates of Wizards that are taken very seriously, are making that are honestly really frustrating in my opinion.
Yep, and that's where I exactly it's so I guess we'll talk about the two extremes. We have the people that are overreacting with the spike art, and the people that are overreacting on the opposite end of the spectrum about the spike art. When it should be a non, I don't. It's just if it was just a choice of art by the artist, or if they did want more representation, if it was just as simple as that, I think I'd be okay with it. But knowing Wizards of the Coast and being in the in of knowing how Wizards of the Coast functions, that was calculated, 100% calculated, and I think that's
Oh
where a
yeah.
lot of people start to have the issue with it. And coming to, I guess we should name the groups here. We have like people like, what do we even call unsleeved media on the one end of the spectrum, who thinks it's a travesty or just thinks it's being extremely disingenuous, and yeah, it should be something you should quit playing Magic over. I mean, basically. And then we have the other people, the other opposite end of the spectrum, that if you don't like Spike the artwork for any reason, if you have any problem with this, then you're a misogynist and you need to go because
uh,
bigots. And of course, it's reactions should temper down, and people should see what it is. But I guess I don't know. What's your thoughts on it, Mr. Snackies? Before I go off on my rant.
I kind of feel the same. I've watched a lot of, or not a lot, I've watched a few of Unsleeved Media's videos talking about it, and I've been following his Twitter feed and watching him argue with people. And then I've seen other people on the other end, like you said, if you disagree with us, you know, you're part of the problem. You add to the rampant misogyny within the gaming industry. And I, you know, at first when I noticed the art, I was just like, okay, you know what? It's a girl, whatever. That's totally fine. But it's all these people that are making it an issue is what's really kind of, it wouldn't necessarily be an issue if you didn't have people like saying like, you should just quit the game over this, which I think is really stupid, you know, getting angry over something so benign and ultimately useless as fucking card art is stupid. And then having to defend it because you feel like you're being quote unquote unrepresented when that could be further from the case if you've been paying attention to their art direction over the past, I don't know, year and a half. You can see that there's been more and more and more representation in the form of like Alesha being trans, and then Kineos and Tiro as a gay couple, and Admiral Beckett Brass and the Flip Werewolf Planeswalker. They're both kind of like older ladies. Like obviously WotC's not afraid to do this whole representation thing, but at what point is it where it's just normal representation to the point where you cross that threshold into it being completely forced?
Yeah,
is my concern.
Yeah, that's how I feel too, because I think that, well, this has been my issue with everything. A little bit of backstory about me. I was raised extremely conservative. So we're talking, if anyone's been to Utah and have been in at least my area of Utah, which is central Utah, is like 93% Mormon. And Mormons are very known for being conservative. This is about one of the reddest states Utah will never vote Democrat. My vote is completely useless here because they're going to, I mean, as much as they hated Trump, they still voted for him because it's, that's just the whole thing, because they found Trump very insulting towards Mormonism. He said some, things in the past, and there's a Romney conflict with it and stuff like that. And that just shows you how diehard they are conservative if they would vote for an enemy over, a Democrat. So, but anyway, my parents were very, very, very conservative. My community is very conservative, and I hated it growing up. In fact, I left my religion, and I wanted nothing to do. I became kind of the exact opposite of that. And so, if there was anyone that should be susceptible to the liberal cause these days, or should be like a bleeding blue Democrat, it was me. But it's just these sort of things. I'm not ascribing a political party to a certain, but you can tell these days and age which party is affiliated with which social justice warrioring. I mean, I consider both at this point social justice warriors, and they're both pathetic. But
right, they're trying to cling so desperately to everyone falling in line with certain ideals that it's, like you said, it almost comes across as pathetic at this point.
Yeah.
It's just like, just let people live their lives. Just because, I don't agree that X thing is misogynistic or that X thing is ruining America, that doesn't mean you need to actually go into a fit about it.
Yeah.
It's just ideals and views. It's nothing worth getting too worked up about. But then again, that's what wars are all based on, or fucking ideals.
Well, it reminds me of my plight, too. When I did leave my church, I got a lot of backlash from people. So, of course, you naturally start looking for like-minded people. And I used to join a lot of these ex-Mormon, is what they're called, groups. Then I came to the conclusion that these people are just as petty and cultish and or ideologues as what I just left. And now I consider myself like an ex-Mormon now, because it's just ridiculous. You should see the ex-Mormon counterculture. Like, every one of them turns into a coffee connoisseur because it's against the rules to drink coffee. So all of a sudden they're experts on wine and coffee. They are so pretentious. They are about, if you ever go to Salt Lake City, it's one of the most like extreme left. Just look up Mayor Rocky Anderson and some of the stuff that there used to be a thing called the Undie Run, which was actually hilarious. I mean, my little brother have some great photos posing in our undies in front of the Salt Lake Temple, just as kind of an FU to my culture I grew up in. And also the Undie Run was started because there's some stupid rules in Utah about alcohol and
Mm-hmm.
they call it the Mormon curtain. You can't even display alcohol in your restaurant. It's got to be behind closed doors, like behind the door. You can't have it in open public for people to see, which is the most
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous law ever. And there was a few other ones, and I think it was a bar got fined or didn't get approved because of some sort of, it was a ridiculous law. And so they started the undie run because Utah needs to get its undies out of a wad or whatever, the old expression. And it was actually pretty cool the
Right.
first two times that we ran into in it, because it was all just about, people didn't want a bunch of people in their undies running around the Salt Lake Temple grounds. It ran right past it, right up State Street, which goes right next to the Salt Lake Temple, which is, there's tons of tourists. That's our number one tourist attraction spot. And it was just funny to do it. But then it became so politicized. And in year 3, we went to it. And me and my brother is extremely, I would say, if my brother's political spectrum would definitely be bottom left, I consider myself slightly bottom right or libertarian. And we were both disgusted at how politicized it became, and how much of just like a hoorah it was for really, really extreme left ideologies. And that's just something I can't ascribe to either. It's something that I just find ridiculous. They're both the exact same in their own little extreme ways.
They really are. They're two sides of the same coin.
Yep.
They just happen to have different perspectives, but their ideals are almost one and of the same. They're just painted a different color each. And yeah, I grew up in Iowa and Missouri, so I kind of grew up in pretty much the dead center of America. But luckily enough, I didn't grow up with conservative values or liberal values either. My parents were both pretty middle of the road, pretty tolerant, more left leaning, and I grew up in with left leaning values. And closer towards my college years, my 18 and 19 years, I was becoming more and more liberal, as those people tend to do. And I can tell you, it was about 2.5 years after Obama got elected, I noticed that there was like this surge of confidence in the culture coming from Obama's election, with all these people not necessarily feeling entitled to act and promote certain lifestyles or ways, but it almost felt like it because, our president is a black man. So therefore we are the most progressive country in the world, or some bullshit like that. And it just kind of came tumbling down, and the feminazis started appearing more and more, and the term SJW started becoming a thing. And they just started getting more and more extreme in their views, and less lenient towards those that disagreed with them. So
they became the new right. It's like they switched sides, because like I grew up with people, like I have my business partner is gay, openly gay, and that would have been impossible in Richfield, Utah, to start a business with we would have been run out of town with the pitchfork 15 years ago. And so I grew up fighting against this crap, fighting against, I had people from my culture in Central Utah seems to be very, very, like when I left my religion, a lot of them, I lost a girlfriend at the time. She wanted nothing to do with me when she found that I left the church and whatnot. And that's this whole bag for another day. I'll have to go into that some other time. But again, I grew up fighting against intolerance with the right, and now it seems like it's the left I'm having all these battles with. And you watch like Dave Rubin, that's his entire story too, with a lot of these people that are what we consider classical liberals are actually very left leaning. They're more left than I am. And they've been pushed, so they've been called, and we'll look at the article that is such a dumpster of a garbage fire of an article, because it's the exact same thing. They push us. Now we're white. If we don't like Spike for whatever reason, we're a white supremacist.
That's misogyny.
Yep, exactly. Right. So it's just getting absolutely ridiculous. And they're taking potential allies like me, like people that have run in their little undie run and things like that, and completely alienated us. And yeah, that's just a little bit of a story too. I remember my mom, she was so against, was it Prop 8, which was the the California voting on legalizations of marriage, because what was the first state that was trying to do it, and the Mormon Church was caught red-handed.
Like a decade ago or something.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's because I was living in Salt Lake at the time, and so I know the Mormon Church got caught like funneling money through smaller religions to fight it, and then they got really in trouble because they they knew that the African American community was really against gay marriage, and so they pumped a lot of ad money into the African American neighborhoods and stuff to get them to come vote against it. And it was kind of funny because if you look at kind of the churches, the Mormon church's history on racism, that's they don't have a very good track record of being allies to people that are not what we call white and delightsome here in Utah. So it was kind of, I was having this argument with my mom where she was saying, well, Kevin, if we allow gays to marry, pretty soon they're gonna force my religion to marry gays in our temple. I'm like, Mom, that is a definition of a slippery slope. As soon as they do that, I will be the first person to come help defend your way of life, your religion. And I mean, you can't fight things at the slippery slope. And it's funny because lo and behold, though, now I'm there fighting for my mom's right to practice her religion, because lo and behold, there are people that are trying to do that. There are people that are trying to force the issue on her church, on her way of life. And that's where I get the offense from. And especially when this spike, now we're coming full circle with it, comes into play, is like, there are legitimate reasons to be concerned about this, or just not like that sort of having it. They're right. This isn't representation of what the average spike would be. And it feels very forced, feels almost like a slap in the face. And I understand it. And I don't know if I'm making any sense or just digging a huge hole here.
Well, let's go ahead and get started with the article. So it's from the Hipsters of the Coast website, and it's called Thoughts on Spike Tournament Grinder by Rich Stein.
I'll pull it up here. Like I said, I'm glad we're on my work computer, so nothing pops up and gets me banned from YouTube. All right, so I've got it popped up here. Hopefully you can see the article big enough. And
yeah, I have yet to actually read this article yet. I saw the title.
To be honest, too.
I looked at it a little bit and I saw a lot of buzzwords, so I was just like, this is going to be a nice ride of a read. Man, all right, so you want to just get through this paragraph by paragraph?
Oh, yeah, so social justice and progressive values are a surprisingly challenging topic in the year 2017. Okay, they right there have a problem with that sentence, because social justice, that was a term that was used to kind of belittle people that were just crazy on
legitimately, like people who were legitimately oppressed would use that term to give themselves a platform. But nowadays, that holds just as much water as a colander.
Yeah, exactly. And it's almost used to mock, though, people that are just overbearing with it. Mm-hmm. And that's why I always found it funny when, like, a lot of people. I remember one of the Magic the Averaging podcasts is like, we are social justice warriors. I'm like, that's a term I would never use. I would never touch it. Even if I did believe in certain beliefs or progress, social progress, I never ascribe to that term. So anyway. So there,
that first sentence, though, how he says it's a surprisingly challenging topic. Like, of course, it's surprisingly challenging because there's a lot of backlash. A lot of people are pushing back against this. Well, what's that term? Regressive left? Yeah, like that's kind of what it feels like. And people are kind of pushing back and saying, hey, maybe you're getting a bit too far. And people like this Rich Stein guy are just saying, oh, it's surprisingly challenging. Like it feels like a manipulative statement almost, just to reaffirm, like, to his audience that reads that kind of stuff, to be like, yeah, we're doing something right. And yeah, we're being challenged. And yeah, you should feel bad for us because we're so fucking oppressed. Like, from the get-go, this all just reeks of victimizing themselves.
Yep. Absolutely. So the idea that women should be represented in the artwork used for a card game such as an upcoming unstable Jesus, I'm drunk, can't read. Unstable expansion, Spike Tournament Grinder, shouldn't be controversial, and yet here we are. Well, okay, I have a problem with that statement because it's somewhere in the middle. You can always you know that they're doing this. They're almost using this as a weapon. Like WotC, we know, has done this in the past. If it was just innocuous, I'd have no problem with it. But we know that this is being used as a definitely as a weapon. So
yeah, almost like a marketing tool, almost like kind of like a marketing tool, but it feels a little more insidious.
Yeah, definitely. That's insidious is the great word. That's the perfect word for it. So it shouldn't be a controversial yet. Here we are. This sentiment, of course, is a microcosm of what's happening today, not only in the larger gaming community, but in social circles across the entire country in a post-Trump United States of America. Oh,
ding, ding,
God,
ding. We have a winner.
Here we go again. Everything. You know the term "thanks Obama"? That was the left's way, and yep. I agree with the left. That was a perfect meme towards the right that was just stupid about everything. And the funniest thing about Obama's administration is he was literally the definition of a lame duck president for 7 years. Mm-hmm. He was useless. The only thing that Obama did was the first year, and then the Republicans controlled both the House and the Senate, and it was gridlocked. So
right,
he had very little
like
power.
Yeah.
And so it's the thanks Obama thing was hilarious. It was like people were blaming crap that had nothing to even do with the executive, right? Executive branch. Yeah, the legislative, judicial,
the executive branch.
Nothing to do with the executive branch. And so it's kind of like this is the new, like this is their thanks Obama thing, but now it's everything is Trump's fault. Again, the guy has less power than they're giving him so much power that he absolutely doesn't have. And I'm still, under this day, there's some great tweets going on today with like Shoe on Head. I don't know if you follow Shoe on Head or Roaming Millennial or Chris Reagan. A lot of left people that have now leaned right. They were like, they were tweeting out, like this Trump thing's it was funny that he got elected, but now this is really starting to get old with, Trump being Trump. And I agree with him. I was never a Trump supporter since the beginning of, funny story about that. My mom and dad had a massive fight over my mom refused to vote for Trump, and my dad was, what, are you going to vote for Hillary? No, I'm just going to sit this one out. Well, that's like, that was a funny little.
It was funny. I was talking with my dad about that right before the election, and I was asking him, I was like, who are you going to vote for? And he's like, I'm going to vote for Trump, even though we had spent all year talking shit on him. I was like, well, wait, why? And then he said he wanted to because we lived in a blue state, and he said Trump's not going to get elected in Oregon. So he just did it for shits and giggles. But like how people just get so just like into that just over something as simple as voting. But then again, I have a whole diatribe that I could get into about that and the Electoral College and how fucked that is.
Well, we'll probably disagree on Electoral College because I think it actually should get more extreme. I hate the popular vote. We do not live in a democracy. We live in a republic. We've never been a democracy. We never should be a democracy. In my opinion, democracy is the most dirty, evil, disgusting word you can blurt out of your mouth because democracy is just mob rule. We live in a rule of law, a republic, which has a way of doing things. That's true. Absolute over democracy. If you wanted to live in a democracy, Justin Bieber would be considered. That's the best music of all time. That's politically, Justin Bieberism would happen. But anyway, I digress there. What was I even talking about? But Trump too. People with my analysis of all the people that I know that voted for him. And just kind of my sentiments right before the election, it was just the biggest middle finger to the political system that everyone knew he was a buffoon, and they voted for him anyway, just as like screw the Republican Party if they're not going to give us a good candidate, which they didn't. There was at least last
it was just same old
election. There was a candidate that I would have got behind, which was John Huntsman. He was our old governor, and I respect him a lot because he was so middle of the road. But this time around, there was not a Republican candidate nor a Democrat candidate I think anyone wanted to get behind, and so it was just we'll put the buffoon in, and maybe he will just destroy the system because sometimes it's better just to start from scratch. But anyway, now going as far as this article is now that Trump has just caused so much misogyny and rampant racism and white supremacy and stuff like that. Well.
Right. He's the cause of it when people don't even realize that he was riding the meme wave, the popularity wave.
And 4chan, it was a joke too. The whole God Emperor Trump thing was not an endorsement. It was a joke. It's like, what can we do?
And people don't understand that.
Do we have to explain normies to people? I mean, that's 4chan culture. A normie is someone that has an unhealthy relationship with the internet. aka 4chan. And 4chan had its own, it was a bunch of people from across the globe that were usually a little bit social outcasts. They went to the internet as their home. And that's where the whole Kekistani comes from and all sorts of stuff, because the internet became their home. And then they hated it when their culture got appropriated, we'll use some of that, by the normies or the people that didn't have, or I guess I said normie was people that had normies were people that don't have an unhealthy obsession with the internet. So when the normies started taking 4chan's memes, that's like, well, how can we get them back? What does everyone hate? Everyone hates Trump. Let's associate them with Trump, and then we'll get our memes back. And they did, and it worked. And it was so funny how they trolled them, and they have it all documented. Like, how fast can we get Hillary Clinton to tweet out that Pepe's a hate symbol? And within record time, they had it happening. And most
that was kind of like the crux of it all. Like, God, that Pepe event was that was peak election / SJW overreaction.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it, is it trolled two sides at once. All of a sudden, Trump thought he just had this wave of support, which he really didn't have, other than a meme. And same thing with, yes, the white supremacists that then started thinking Kekistan and Pepe was an endorsement of them. All of a sudden, they are like, oh, wow, our movement, which is absolute garbage, is getting traction. Let's come out of the woodwork. So it's funny because two, in my opinion, deserving ideologues of getting trolled got massively trolled. And the meme magic, the meme currency, they just cashed in. They cashed in. And it's internet culture. I grew up with it too. Growing up in rural Utah, and then just kind of being the flamboyant person I am, the internet's always been my culture. I use the term, I know I actually got upset the other day when I was reading Know Your Meme, and they attributed kek to World of Warcraft. Because that's what the orc said. No! I'm a StarCraft 1 player, thank you very much. Kek was something that we used to always say back and forth to each other, because StarCraft 1, the Koreans dominated in StarCraft, and we started picking up little Korean, and kek was what they used to say for ha 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 ha. It was kiki. And that's why World of Warcraft adopted it, because it was StarCraft culture. And even before StarCraft culture, there was some bats on Final Fantasy 1, I believe. Isn't it Final Fantasy 1 in the cave where they're going kiki, and then it translates when you get it to ha 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 ha. And so that's all. It's that's how of an unhealthy obsession I've had with the internet, when I get mad at Know Your Meme for sourcing where the memes first started. And that's the whole, it's been my culture since I haven't had a culture, being a Utah outcast, being
you don't use Encyclopedia Dramatica?
Oh man, I love it. Do not Google or do not Encyclopedia Dramatica borderline personality disorder. It makes me laugh so hard every time. So again, I need to quit picking on borderlines, because I know statistically speaking, a lot of my viewers might have the condition. So that's an animal for another day. I will be starting another channel now that I'm going to lose all my sponsorships for making this video. Of more of the psychology, more of the. It's called Potentially Kevin. Little shameless self-promotion there, and it's just going to be some more of my ramblings about psychology, religion, stuff like that, because this is the stuff. I actually started YouTube channel as a kind of a pilot, kind of a test drive, and then it kind of took off. I got a sponsorship within like 3 months. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll stick with it. And I think that is a mistake. I probably shouldn't have, because I think that my real talent lies beyond just magic, even though I think I'm a pretty decent content creator brewer. But anyway, I digress as usual.
I think we got pretty far off what we were talking about.
Yeah, I know. I've missed all the comments too. So anyway, let's go. Should we go down to some more paragraphs here with Spike Tournament Grinder?
I'll take the reins this time.
Okay.
Wizards of the Coast has embraced their diversity initiative when it comes to creating new characters. Spike Tournament Grinder is only the latest in a very long line of cards that were used to help improve the representation of a variety of minorities in the Magic multiverse. Articles and studies about representation and diversity consistently show their importance. Okay, articles and studies about representation and diversity. That last sentence, I I don't
Let
understand
it
how
happen
causation is
naturally.
correlation.
I know, and
Like,
just let it happen naturally anyway. Where does magic think that it needs to be this beacon? That's the whole. That's why I keep getting like people explain what I'm meaning by Seattle culture. It's because they're not doing this for any sort of uh, goodness of their heart. Trust me, this is all keeping up with the Joneses. That's all it is. They are trying to go to their
yeah.
little wine and cheese banquets, which if you ever watched them, they there's been more than one Wizards employee that's tweeted out a bunch of wine and cheese pairings. Just kind of shows you, good God. But anyway, it's just all of them keeping up with the Joneses so there's all these other companies in that area or like I say coastal a lot of times. You're thinking New York, San Francisco, Seattle. Those tend to be the more homelands to the far, far, far left. Toronto, I guess that's not a coastal city, but I guess is that on the Great Lakes? I guess it can be a coastal city for Canada. But anyway, so I'm offending Canadians now. So I mean, that's the whole thing. Is it's just keeping up with the Joneses. Think of what was the acceptance speech for. You can go Google that, and it's just plain cringe for Stranger Things. Did you ever watch that when they won some sort of like best new show? And they're like, it was just a big anti-Trump spiel about how they're going to beat the bully in the White House. And like, oh, shut up. Does everything have to be keeping up with the Joneses of who can, one up each other on the social justice cause? And again, that's my whole problem with Wizards to a T is we all know what this is about. This is all about going to a party and being like, look what my company did. Look at me. I'm so great. Has nothing to do with actually trying to do positive change in otherwise they wouldn't be like so aggressive. They'd be actually trying to hear out the other side. So
right. I don't think they're doing it for their own moral sake. I think they do it more to appeal to certain demographics in certain markets more than anything else.
Well, yeah,
they're just like, well, there's a lot of people that are on the anti-Trump wave, and we might as well ride that. But yeah,
how well did that work out for the election? Jeez,
for real. You know what I found? You know, I found really weird about this whole. I hate to be on this Trump thing, but just wanted to say, previous Republican candidate George W. Bush, actually. I remember growing up, like it was around 14, 15, 16. I'd say it was around between 16 to 18. Right around 05 to 07 is when the real backlash against George W. started coming around, because that's when everything started to culminate, like Iraq, and just him being an overall buffoon just started making headway. But with this Republican election, it was almost immediate. It was before even the election, everyone was against this president. So I just think it's really interesting to see how our culture is interacting with a new leader in charge as opposed to what it was the previous cycle. I just think it's really strange how things have just, I think it's part of the internet age has helped things accelerate and get to that point. But I just think it's fascinating, honestly.
Yeah. Well, it just shows people's biases or their inability to be objective about things. They have to be so subjective to their own. Like, it's people. They're generally people that wish, like, if Trump were to do something good, even if there's a policy they agreed with, they'd hate on it just because of the person behind it. And that's the definition of hypocrisy. That's what actually drives me nuts about watching like Fox News or CNN. It's like when our guy does it, it's okay, but when the other guy does it, ooh. And it's right. Like Obama's policies and a lot of Trump's policies are very similar. That's why I don't like either one of them, because most Republicans these days, Trump included, and most Democrats these days, Obama, Bill Clinton, going clear back to even like the Kennedy days, are pretty authoritarian. They're pretty high on the political spectrum for the authority marking. And as a libertarian, that's kind of my war. It's not against left or right. It's against authoritarian versus individuality versus collectivism and things like that. And so it's easy for me to stay on the sidelines and not like you, and then see when CNN's like blasting George Bush back in the day, and then Fox News then goes 4 years later and starts blasting Obama for the exact same policy, the exact same foreign policy. And because they didn't really have much difference in the foreign policy. It was pretty much to a T. But yeah, God, we're getting into politics still. So.
Right. We're going down the rabbit hole. That's what happens when you begin to talk about things like this. Like, it takes away from the game of Magic and it strings along into something political. And I think that's what really pushes people away from the game, is just the fact that people feel the need to drag things out and bring things like this out into the spotlight. And it forces people like us, those who are reasonable and in the center, to have to come out and defend ourselves, because we feel like we're being accused of doing something that we're really not. We're not sitting here being misogynistic. We're not sitting here trying to perpetuate
that's the last thing I want to
oppression.
Do. That's the last thing I want to do is argue this stupid picture. Who cares? I could care less. Is this going to get more women into Magic? Absolutely not. It's not going to do a damn thing. So that's what I have the problem with it. It's not actually, once again, it had nothing to do with actually progressing anything. It's all about, look what we just did to their little culture, and it's leading to them, instead of a discussion forming, it's leading them just to berate and belittle people that do have problems with that, when I do think they should be heard. And that's where truth is or progress is made, is when people hash out their issues. When I've been convinced before to change my position many times, I'm pretty sure hopefully I'm pretty convincible to, there have been things you've said where at first I'd been on a position and like, oh, wow, that's a very reasonable argument, I'll change my position.
Like what?
Thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm just trying to stroke your ego here. I'm sure there's been things and same thing, like I have some bad blood with even like Tulare Community College, but when he makes a good point, or other people, when they're right, they're right. And as much as I don't like a person, I try not to let it, my feelings subject me to, how I respond to the actual point. So anyway, now we're really getting to worms. All right, so
whatever. At this point, it's like, if they're gonna excommunicate you from the community, what's a few more mudslinging at them?
And that's again, the funny thing is, this video is really coming from when I kind of had a renaissance, like a rebirth in the community. I've stayed away from this for a while at the request of sponsors and the request of other people, but this is just the boiling point. With my local game store completely getting, can I say, shit on by Wizards? Is that an appropriate word to say? It's way past bedtime for kids. So Wizards not giving two craps. I'll have to show you all the screenshots from the Wizards Play Network Facebook page. Everyone's up in arms against Wizards and Iconic Masters and some of their crap that they've been pulling, and then getting bombarded with people saying, okay, if you're not with us, you're against us. And that's really what I have the problem with, because I'm not going to go full SJW. It's never going to happen. So even when I'm a little bit on the side of more to the side a lot of times on, we could be better as a community. When they tell me, well, if you're not fully in on that, then I'm part of the problem, that's of course when we get pushed back. So I guess that's why I'm making the video today, is because, what's the saying? I have little something to give, or no more blankety blank to give. So before, demonetization, I don't care about monetization. This is so funny when I hear people whine about YouTube demonetization. It's so poor unless you have.
I was about to say YouTube pays pennies to the creators.
Terrible. So,
like, this whole adpocalypse thing affects exactly 0.1% of Magic the Gathering YouTubers, because, spoiler alert, your favorite Magic the Gathering YouTuber, if his name isn't Talarian or the Mana Source or Alpha Investments, they're probably not making jack shit.
Yeah.
At all from YouTube.
Yep. And and plus, I don't think that people should, if that's going to be the difference between saying something and not saying something, that's kind of petty in my opinion. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm not a big successful, I speak my mind way more than I should. I'll have to tell you about some of the reasons I got fired from one of my jobs one of these days. Then I'll really be run out of the community. But because I have little tolerance for just stupid things. And when you have to manage, like, they weren't young kids, but they were young kids at the stupid things that don't ever become a manager. That's or a supervisor. It's the worst hell. in the entire world trying to
Yeah,
manage
no.
people.
I've seen plenty of supervisor positions, and it just seems like supervisors and managers are essentially glorified secretaries, and you get paid a negligible amount more to do 2 to 3 to 4 times the work, and it just doesn't seem worth it at all. Seems very corporate America like.
Yep, and yeah, I definitely couldn't hold that position because I speak my mind, and there are some little brats that are not going to get away with. And speaking on the the whole gender thing, it was in this case it was a girl trying to use her femaleness as a excuse to get out of work, and I just had it that day. Absolutely had it. Again, I'll talk about that another day. So anyway, there's one little comment I want to address. The person I see, I interact with at the most on the chosen community is Saffron Olive. Big shout out to Seth. There are some people I think are actually more on the centrist side than they'll give off to, but they've been threatened. I won't say more into this. I've got personal messages, but I won't spoil. I won't ever put them out in the public. But I actually get a lot of private messages from people that are even bigger than I am, thanking me for taking some of these positions because they know they can't. And
that's cool. At least they're willing to like reach out to you and like let you know, so that way you're not like in the dark.
Yeah,
it's nice to have that kind of support.
It almost killed me when I lost because me, TCC, and Manosaurus, a bunch of those other guys used to be pretty good friends, Magic Man Sam, and then all of a sudden they all cut me off all at once over one stupid video where I don't think I did the best job. A lot of times I just point and record, and a lot of times it comes off not the way I want it to. And even looking back at that video, I'm like, yeah, I probably should clarify that. Yeah, I came off a little bit too bitchy there, or too, especially when I get started talking about like some of my experiences, I'll be very jaded. And I know I'm jaded, but it will still, without editing, it's going to come off. If people sit there, how many outtakes do people do that pre-record and then edit stuff? How many stuff could they get crucified for if they actually let it, on air? And
exactly.
So I thought people were being very unfair with that video.
Yeah, that's why I edit all of my rambles, not only because I'm terrible at doing one takes, but also because I will say stupid, dumb things that I don't actually mean, that just kind of either came out the wrong way or something that just blurted out of my mouth. But yeah, that's the magic of editing. Like an average 15-minute video of mine, or not average, but like if you see a video that's like 15 minutes, I probably took around an hour of recording and just re-recording lines and shit, just because, I don't want to get caught in a situation like that and have it backfire.
Yeah, well, I'm too late for that. But that's going back to personality theory too. I'm such a personality nerd, and a lot of people hate Myers-Briggs and think it's pseudoscience, which I agree to a point with them. But I think it does have some pretty relevant studies that have been done around it. But anyway, my personality type is ENFP, and that's known for foot and mouth syndrome. Like, we say stuff and think, oh crap. Because it's what's called the nate connection, where your two extroverted functions are both very active. So my mind's continually exploring, and how it learns is through communicating. So I'm exploring my irrational side, or the intuition, through talking to people and thinking out loud. And of course, there's no filter on that. So anyway, let's continue on the article before it gets too...
Right, before we bore everyone to tears by going off on tangents. I think we went off for like 10 minutes time.
Worse than that. It's an article from 2016 published by Morgan Stanley. I haven't clicked on the article, but I'm thinking it's going to be some science that's is controversial or not backed up. So strong correlation between gender diversity in the employer base and stock returns for the investors. Okay, well, I can give you a counter study. The military put two groups of groups together. One had a mixed group of genders, and the other one that had just a full group of males. And in every way that you can rate, the non-diversified one did better. So that's a situation by situation thing. I definitely think a group of loggers would probably be, just statistically speaking, bigger body masses and stuff like that will probably have better output if they are all male. It's just fact of life.
Right. I wouldn't pick a gangly like guy with scoliosis to lift a log just as much as I wouldn't choose someone else that wasn't physically able to do it. You know, if you can do the work, great. If you can't, you can't. That's just people like it. I feel like it's just people grasping at straws at that point. Like if you're saying that something is not like gender, like not what's the word that I'm trying to say? If you can't do something because of your gender, because of something outside of like your physical capability, for example, that doesn't mean it's inherently misogynistic or anything. That's just being smart.
Yeah. And
I don't want a liability. I don't want to lose workers and have a high turnover rate, you know?
And there's probably some truth to this too. Just if I think they're focused on this instead of diversity of appearance is what I like to call it. There probably is a lot of diversity in ideas with people with different ethnic backgrounds. So I agree with what this paragraph here is saying, and I think we should strive to be diverse in. You know, I'd love to have people with more diverse, especially in brewing, coming from different backgrounds and stuff like that. For there's nothing wrong with it. Oh man, that's why I can't stand the nationalist platforms of the white, you know, the white supremacists, the Richard Spencer's type stuff. It's so ridiculous.
The tiki toward racists.
I don't know. I part of me thinks those people are just all paid actors to try to, like, you know, you start seeing the Russian bots that we've 100% caught playing both sides to try to rile people up. There's part of me thinking that those are just people. We're just being trolled at a massive scale. Because how do people like that even exist? I don't know anyone like that exists. And every once in a while, like I get some really bigoted people, but
conspiracy theory. Maybe they were hired by like not necessarily Trump, but like a organization that wants to represent Trump, just to smear like white supremacists, just to get more kickback from the SJWs, just to get more kickback from them in order to secure like Trump's renewal as president. Then again, it's a conspiracy tinfoil hat theory. Just kind of going off what you're saying.
It makes you think though, dude, because those people are just so out there. But at least that shows my perspective when I'm like, they are so out there. There's not anything that I can even remotely have in common with their ideology. Again, to me, it's an individual versus collective issue, and nationalism is an extreme collective issue. Whereas in individualism, again, you're going to go on the wills and the needs of the individuals rather than the wills and needs of the collective, and trying to separate on racial lines is, to me, kind of a stupid. But then again, listening to some things that, well, not Richard Spencer, but that old LARPy looking guy. See, this is how much I know the movement. But he'll talk about like, well, don't, like, everyone else's, you know, ethnicity gets celebrated and, you know, pray, and we try to keep it. We talk about cultural appropriation. We talk about all these things, and we try to keep it that they're okay to group off and just be exclusive. How come European whites aren't? And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it, but you guys are, just because that side's dumb too doesn't make doesn't justify your stupidity to wanting it as well. I mean, it's maybe it's just because I grew up with a incredibly diverse background with, as a nerd, there you go, going back to Magic the Gathering, you can't pick and choose a lot of your friend, you know, you're going to find people that agree with you hobby wise. My best friend growing up, his name was Sohel. I wonder what happened to Sohel, because I really feel bad for him, because this was way pre 9/11. Shows you my age, in elementary school. And Sohel's family came from Iraq. His dad was an oil guy and actually ran the gypsum plant here in Richfield. Sohel, I guess I shouldn't say his last name because that could actually lead back to a real person, huh? But his dad changed his name to Bob. That was always what's funny about it. But yeah, he was a little Iranian kid. And then my other best friend's name is Manuel, the one that actually introduced me to Magic, and he was from Panama. And so maybe I just grew up just, you know, seeing people as people rather than people as their ethnicity, but I don't know. Now I'm getting off on tangents again.
It's all good. All right. So if studies show that companies that embrace gender diversity produce stronger economic results, and that racial diversity leads to more free thinking and stronger decision making, and if Wizards of the Coast has chosen to embrace both of these policies, what's the problem?
They are so stretching with that paragraph. They are just grabbing.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a massive grab there. Because that's not
I think
the
they
reasoning.
they're mixing up the words embrace with force. First off, that's the.
They're trying to justify and rationalize something. They're trying so hard with that paragraph. How does this? Who's the author?
They really are.
How in the world does Rich Stein? How does he actually justify that paragraph? Because to me, that is such a stretch. That is, yeah, call him Mr. Elastic there.
You're right. Jesus Christ! Like, I don't understand where his logic is coming from. This just because other people did it, and just because other people did it in clever ways that make sense for their company and in their industry. And Wizards of the Coast is trying to do it in a clumsy way that is making everyone confused and angry. Then what's the problem?
And
like,
what's this free thinking and stronger decision making? What are they trying to say here? We're gonna have better tournament results? What?
The free thinking and stronger decision making, like how you only let 550 lists be available to the public each day from MTGO. Is that what you mean, Rich Stein?
Yeah, like, no. Yeah, talk about diversity. They're not doing a very good job in diversity of races in Magic because they're suppressing everything that's or they're not showing Teamer Energy's true power, right? Those Kaladesh,
right?
They're suppressing the Kaladesh race.
They're oppressing the tier 1 decks.
Oh man. All right. So call it what you like, whether it's Gamergate. Okay, this is your tweet that got the whole why we started live streaming to begin with.
Ugh.
So call it what you like, whether it's Gamergate, the alt-right, white supremacists, or something else. There's a small but very vocal minority that strongly resists these changes. So I guess you and I, we're white supremacists. We can't be something else. We absolutely can't just hate this crap that it's just being...
Too bad we can't be critical and reasonable and look at it from an objective perspective. No. There's something evil that boils in our blood. You know, we want to bring down progression. We want to make sure that everyone at the LGS is a white male that's smelly and neckbeard and gross. No. Yeah, I don't fucking get it. Like I think people use phrases like this when they know they're defeated.
Yeah, what's the logical fallacy? The appeal to, or God damn it, I can't think at all. It's where you bring up someone's character rather than their. So you can't believe Joe because Joe's a redneck, type thing. It's and rednecks don't have education. What's that logical fallacy? I need to just one of these days I'll throw it up at the store too. Just types of logical fallacies. Are you guilty of this crap? Anyway, but yeah, there's this thing has
and he brought up the magical phrase Gamergate. Like, I'm sure this person doesn't even fucking understand what Gamergate is.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like, when people talk about Gamergate, 9 times out of 10 they don't understand.
Yeah.
For a microcosm, what Gamergate was and what it actually stemmed from. When
Gamergate.
Gamergate is essentially a bigger version of what's going on in Magic right now. It's essentially the biggest people in the industry calling everyone else misogynistic and racist. Well, that's what Gamergate was.
Talk about privilege. Wasn't it Zoe Quinn that got caught sending death threats to herself, which is like a federal offense? He got investigated. Yeah. I guess we'll just let this go. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't Zoe Quinn. Maybe it was. But it was one of them that was involved in Gamergate that got caught with the fake the fake harass or the fake rape threats, and they took it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a waste of government money there. And it was just trying to prove her cause. And someone just barely got caught. Oh, I read an article, what was the military one, where someone was writing racial slurs on the wall, and then they found out it was the own guy because he was trying to get out of his own.
Yeah, didn't that just happen a couple weeks ago or something?
That's the the people that cry wolf or people that it's cool. It's called, in psychological terms, it's called projection. It's where, and that's I think a lot of this, of course, the male feminists and the male SJWs are really kind of like the gay or the anti-gay conservatives. How eventually they get caught in the gay bathrooms. And that's the exact same thing. I guarantee these people one of these days we're gonna catch them in scandals that are exactly what they're opposed against. But for those of you that actually don't know the real shots fired in Gamergate, it literally did start off of people getting pissed off about a review. because it was disingenuous, because they found out it was a garbage game. It was an awful game, and it had 5-star or a glowing review by I guess a well-known game reviewer, and then they found out he was sleeping with the game developer. And that's what started Gamergate. Yep. And then she's the one that doubled down and said, no, you're just all misogynist and don't like my game. You don't like my game because I'm a woman. And then no one even brought that into it. No one cared. They're like, no, we don't like it.
It was essential.
Like
it was a clique of journalists like banding together. Like it was the perfect example of how a victim complex can go over smoothly, and how you can turn an event that's gone against you and turn it around and turn it into something of like, I'm recovering from this, I'm a victim, you need to feel sorry for me because me being inappropriate in my industry has caused me to be compromised, so therefore I need to blame everyone else.
Yep. And in all fair game, though, in all fairness, I think the Gamergaters went to the extreme, too. It's one of the reasons I definitely don't consider myself a men's rights activist, because if you get on some of the men's rights activists, they just, a lot of times they'll scream about a thing just because a woman did it. And that's sexism. It's like, Jesus, that you're missing the point here. It's not about shaming women. It's not about hating women. It's just trying to call the attention, trying to find equality between the, at least, or justice for the two, because like my story says, I was a huge victim in a relationship. And let me tell you, just from experiences, there are no resources for battered men. There are none. You call suicide hotline and you're a male, they don't give two craps. Suicide hotlines are not for men. And I'll tell you this from personal,
what's that?
I will tell you that from personal experience. And people that want to try to tell me that I'm false, okay, then I guess I'm the one that's hallucinating and splitting and whatnot, because those were the conversations that when I was in those dire straits, there were no resources there for me as a male. And I can go on and on about the injustices.
No one wants to bring up that suicide rates are significantly higher in men than they are in women. No one wants to bring that up. No one wants to bring up that men are just as much abused statistically as women. But
the 40% mark's bullshit, actually. In fact, there was a study that when I was researching in my social psychology class, that actually men are more likely to be abused because it's socially acceptable to abuse a man. It's not socially acceptable. And I did a whole presentation on, like, in media, you watch a lot of videos, and it's perfectly okay for a woman to slap a man in Hollywood, like in videos, but it's actually like it's either a funny moment or like he deserves it type thing. Whereas if the roles are reversed, my God, there'd be hell to pay for it. And I think that's led to, and it's not a gender thing, it's just a social thing where it's led to more abuse being easy to perpetuate on one gender rather than the other. And I've seen it, man. There have been some heartbreaking stories, and me myself, I couldn't fight back. If I would have fought back against my ex, I'd have been in jail. There's no question about it. If I would have laid my hands on her, I would have been thrown in jail. Whereas with the time that I did have to report her for physical violence, the cops came over and asked her if I was hitting her. That's literally what happened. Like, even though I had scratches and everything and witnesses and stuff like that. And that was one of the scariest days of my life, because I didn't know why she didn't lie, because she was such a habitual liar to get out of situations. And especially when someone with borderline personality sort of splits you, what they mean by that is they turn you from they see you, they can only see people in all black or all white terms, so you're either their hero or their villain. And she, at that point in time, I was definitely, of course, we just got in a fight, I was the villain of all villains, so she wanted to hurt me, and I have no clue why she didn't decide that day to just end
maybe
me.
Maybe it was the seriousness of the situation.
Yeah,
maybe she wasn't expecting police, and then when she's put to the test, she just couldn't handle it or something.
And she's looking to the future too, because I was her sole provider. What happens if her provider goes to jail?
True.
I mean, I'm sure there's manipulative things behind it, and it's that situation was just a nightmare. But anyway, going back to the whole, what the hell were we even talking about to get us into this?
All right, so we left off on the call it what you'd like sentence.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. With Gamergate, with the whole.
Right.
People turned Gamergate then into this stupid gender war, and both sides were guilty of that, both the pro and against Gamergate. And you just got dumb to read the pro side sometimes. Like, see, here's another example of it. Oh, come on. There is some blatant sexism in the gaming community and in the developer community. So not every instance is just someone trying to use it as victim mentality. Same, I tell this about Magic the Gathering, in my More Hostility for Magic the Gathering too. I saw it with my own eyes, sexism. I tried to bring that same crazy girl to a local game store, and my God, that's never happening again. Just the amount of sexism, and it wasn't the derogatory terms, it was the obsessively trying to hit on her and trying to. What's so dumb about some nerdy males too is they were trying to, like, it almost seemed like they were angry that I was able to catch that sort of caliber of a girl. And I hate saying that because now looking back, that was a nightmare. Like, I wouldn't wish her on my worst enemy, but you know, she was a very attractive girl. She used to work for Victoria's Secret when I met her. That was, you know, there you have your profile. And so I think they all were just like jealous, envious and they were pissed that, you know, nerdy little Kevin or
Really?
me, that it was, yeah. And they were actively upset that I was able to have something they desired. And they were awful to me that day. These were some of them that I considered friends. And the store owner gave her a playmat and a bunch of cards. He was a creep, though. I guess he wasn't the store owner. He just worked there. I think he ended up with a massive scandal later on down the road. But anyway, so I witnessed through my own eyes. There are some absolute sexism and just BS that I'm sure women have to deal with, and men as well, or people like me that doesn't fit the profile. When I got back into Magic, I had to go through 2 local game stores before I found that one that was welcoming towards, you know, me. At the time, I was kind of a fitness jock person, and I just didn't fit in with the, you know, one store was at the mall, and the other store was kind of in a kind of dungy place that, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so Gamergate was ridiculous on both sides. I will be fair there. Like, it got out of control.
Yeah, it did. Like, just the confusion surrounding it and everything just caused it to really blow up and blow out of proportion. And now people like who wrote this article, Rich just uses it as ammunition to further support his baseless claims.
Yeah, because they think that the Gamergate was won by their side. I think it's still up in the air. But, I mean, look at, like, PewDiePie and...
it was almost kind of like a Vietnam situation. No one really won. It just turned into
lost. It destroyed an industry for a while.
It just snowballed into. It just turned into internet drama that still is very prevalent today. Sucks. Well, it really sucks. I feel like Gamergate kind of changed gaming for the worse in terms of culture and community beyond.
It set this up.
Video games.
We knew it was coming. What did Kevin Soffels from Dare MCCG predicted this day? So
did he now?
Oh yeah. So
I wouldn't know because he deleted all of his videos.
Yeah, I know. We could call him up. I'm sure he's still awake.
You think he'd hang out?
Oh yeah, I'm good friends with him still, even though I lost a lot of respect for him when he went off on a tirade on.
MTGA.
I thought it was undeserving, but whatever. Maybe there's because they were supposedly another story for another day. Anyway.
Yeah, he was on his podcast like a month prior. I remember that.
And it was right after I made the video of, hey, can we all be buddies? Can we all be friends? You know, type stuff. But so anyway, this is probably the line we hate the most. These groups, empowered by the election of a president that they view as an ally, have become more vocal in the past 12 months and recruited more members to their cause. Oh, shut up.
Yes, that is our intention.
So if Hillary was president, we wouldn't be doing this? Because absolutely it would be happening.
Because you would be empowered. So therefore, if Hillary became president, then if Hillary was president, then Magic the Gathering would be the most progressive game ever made. It would be full of Saheeli Rise and Spike tournament grinders. Get fucking real.
Yeah, one of those members posted to Mark Rosewater's Tumblr blog last week challenging the decision to make Spike a woman. Over the rest of the article, I'm going to dissect that post that was made on Blogatog. Blah, 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 blah. While Mark Rosewater's response, being 100% correct, completely missed an opportunity, important teaching opportunity. Oh, bullshit. Don't use that. This article cannot say teaching opportunity because they don't care one bit.
This doesn't teach
teaching opportunity. They wouldn't be so divisive. So let us go. So here's the blog post. It says, greetings, Mr. Rosewater. May I ask why...
We got to go over the name.
Yeah. Shekel Steinsberg is a meme. Again, it's a 4chan thing. And this is another one of those things that all this it's supposed to mean. They use it with a photo a lot of times to just mean a greedy Jew, and it also pokes fun at identity politics. It's almost like it's a 4chan thing to make fun of both the left and the right the same time again, and it's been co-opted now. The alt-right is so stupid. They're so gullible to think that they have this massive wave of support when they actually don't, when they're actually being made fun of at the same time. Hence the Kekistani flag, hence Pepe. It's making fun of everyone. It's making fun of identity equality. So that's the same thing here. And this was obviously a troll post. Obvious, beyond obvious. And once again, Mark Rosewater was too dense to catch it. So, and it says, greetings, Mark Rosewater. May I ask why Spike is portrayed as a female when only about 1% of the professional players are girls? It's not honest to make people feel included in a representation of player base they don't belong. Now that's kind of a heated thing. They don't belong is being taken out of context here. I don't know how the author actually wanted this to be, but what it probably means is it's just a representation where there isn't any. Yeah. So they don't belong in that representation. Not that women don't belong. And then you see all of your typical rousers in the MTG community that get bent out of shape by taking things out of context. They really took that don't belong out of context when again, it's up for debate exactly how the author meant it. All right. So, and there's some truth to that statement. Again, there were people that had issue with it, and there is some merit to trying to, like we said before, shove it down everyone's throat. Now, we're 100% clear this is both misogynistic, this is both misogynist in its message that women don't belong in the competitive organization. Oh, yeah. There we go. Yep, you just jumped on that. You're going to misread it in the competitive organized magic.
We found it.
And it also anti-Semitic in its use of Shekel Steinsberg. Yes, because they think it's 4chan thinks it's funny when people can post this. He got a good laugh. Look what I had him post. It's like hiding a dick pic somewhere. It's like, I got them. Like, where's all those? What was that little meme that people would do to reporters? The
one of the guy that's like the one in the hoodie and the sunglasses and be like, I fucked her in the ass.
Yeah, there we
go.
Yes, yes, that's what I was talking about. Where they'd be given a serious thing and then it's like, oh yeah, and they're completely, I watched the building burn down, and then all of a sudden, yep, onto the catchphrase. That's exactly what this is. It's just trying. This person got the greatest laugh ever, and it was shared around, and high fives were, and. Again, that's what trolling. Go watch South Park, though, not this season, but the season before. It explains it all of why trolling happens. And
right, they do it for the reaction. Yes, that's the only reason.
Yes, this person might not even believe this. It just threw it out there because they knew it would get a reaction. And look, lo and behold, who is this Rich Stein? They got the reaction, and then they're laughing because then we did a reaction, and everyone's making a mountain out of a molehill as usual. So we're just as bad.
Do you think Rich actually planted this seed of controversy because he has his name very much in common with the username here? You think maybe Rich wrote that letter?
Maybe so. I know the Hipster of the Coast is just this site. I'll have to tell a story sometime of how I met Hipsters of the Coast because they were so pretentious and they acted like they were greater than they really were. And then I actually went and web statted them, and it's terrible. Like if I even gave two craps about roguedeckbuilder.com, I'd easily get more viewership than this crap post of thing that is shared around and one. But anyway, I digress again as usual. I have a funny story about that too. One of my very first problems I had with a Magic player. I was in. We were both statistically eliminated. I'm not going to name names because we've since made our peace with each other. But we were both statistically eliminated. I was just playing for experience, and somehow one of my cards got shuffled in with got set to the side of my tokens, and he noticed it, but allowed me to shuffle my deck and cut and present. And then when we noticed it, he called a judge and got me DQ'd. And it was what I was so upset about. I'm like, dude, we're just playing for fun. We're both statistically eliminated from prize even. And he thought it was hilarious that he got me. No, he just didn't even think. He wanted to pat his records to his friend and say, see, I almost made it. Because we still had good records, but we were both, the cut was so high for prize. It was only like top 8 got prize to begin with. And neither one of us were
that
top
value
8.
mentality.
Oh, yeah.
I hate that.
So anyway, he goes, So I called him a douche, and he's like, "That's funny. I'm going to put it on my podcast." And so I'm like, "Who is this guy? Did I actually go up against someone that's good?" And I went home and looked up his podcast, and he had like 32 total views. Not on, and they had like 10 episodes. So I'm like, his episode was getting him and his friends that were watching their own episode. And to this day, he still thinks he's a bigger member in the community than he really is. He's actually followed by a lot of big pros, and it's probably because he's paid them to be on his podcast, and so they just follow him for the hell of following people. But yeah, I just remember I took that today, and I still to this day, and maybe this is a little bit low of me to do, but sometimes when I get those YouTube comments, I'll click on their avatar, and it's pretty easy to find someone's personal identity through a series of things. And I'll just look at the person like, why was I worried about their opinion in the first place? And that's how I think about Hipster the Coast. You go look at any of these authors, they're like, this isn't a person I would want to have a beer with anyway. And it just makes life so much easier. Now, if you were to say something
much
negative,
easier and funnier to make fun of them than it is to probably actually communicate with them. Like, I'm sure as a person, they may be tolerable, this Rich Stein guy, but when it comes to his opinion, especially about this game, it is intolerable to say the least.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, I don't want to get like too personal, because like whenever I try to like talk about things like this or try to be in a critical mindset, I tend to slip up and I start getting personal. So I try to separate myself from that. And I said that earlier by comparing his last name with the username there. But yeah, I don't know.
Because Stein's right in it.
Yep. Hey, it might be. He might be the perpetrator of all of this.
And he definitely knew where the meme came from. Jeez. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. That's what made me think about it. I was like, oh, he knows, so maybe it was intentional.
I know. Sometimes these things just add up too perfectly. All right, so this name has been used before on Twitter to support Marine Le Pen for French Prime Minister elections earlier this year. And Le Pen has a well-noted history of anti-Semitic rhetoric. Actually, her father has the most anti-Semitic rhetoric. She tried to distance herself from that, but I digress there. Who cares? We'll secede that point. No one cares about French politics unless you're watching it that's French. Greetings, Mark Rosewater. When this first began making the rounds of Magic Community, one thing was painfully obviously this is a very carefully crafted message. Very carefully, let's cross out message and put troll. Do you understand now? By a group of people who subscribe to the anti-progressive alt-right philosophies? No. By 4chan, there's a huge difference. By people who want you to think that they're this, when they could be anything. Just go look at the amount of 4chan people or the He Will Not Divide Us live streams of minorities that were on the live stream making fun of He Will Not Divide Us. Oh, you know, Asians and African Americans and everyone.
This is going to kind of go off a little bit since you brought up the He Will Not Divide Us. Are you subscribed to a YouTuber called Internet Historian?
No.
He's kind of a shit poster, and he puts a lot of edits in his videos, and they're really clean and nice looking. But he makes this chronology of the whole He Will Not Divide Us thing with Shia LaBeouf and all that, and he goes into explicit detail about how 4chan actually found out where he lived, and like the more specific ones where it recorded just the flag in the sky now, and how 4chan was able to research the jet lines and where they were going at what certain times during the day. And even when he had the flag in his apartment, they were able to figure out where he was because they were able to tell the sunrise and sundown and where he was in the world. And it's just really funny just seeing how organized 4chan really is. Like, just
everyone should definitely
it's organized chaos. It's really cool
because now you understand where my mat comes from, right? Because that's exactly why I made it, because I thought it was so hilarious and I thought it'd make an awesome, because I already had a playmat with a guy holding a flag, so I'm like, oh, so I was actually with Greg, my web designer. I'm like, that'd be kind of fun. I had a lot of people like requesting. There was the first person that actually requested that I put the Viking as the Kyrgyzstan flag. That wasn't even my idea. Someone wanted it. And I read on my website, it's like, if you have a flag you want in this flag, it's easy for us to just change it out. And I'm like, oh, this makes a pretty good thing. We'll just change his face too, to, Pepe. And then we started thinking about, and that whole, the whole He Will Not Divide Us versus 4chan thing was going on. I'm like, Greg, that'd be hilarious if I just put a He Will Not Divide Us and can you Photoshop Shia LaBeouf in there instead? And we did. And it's to my day that it's my favorite map, because man, I get there are so many angry people on both sides because some people think I'm supporting Shia LaBeouf, and then other people are like, think I'm a white supremacist for making fun of Shia LaBeouf, and it's just making fun of an idiot. That's why you do it, because Shia is. Ugh, don't get me started on that. But yeah, there you go.
Oh God. Yeah, you want to talk about Shia? Let's bring up Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and we can get started from there.
I've actually avoided watching that video. But yeah,
I watched it once when I was 17, and the only thing I could remember was him and his screaming like he did in Transformers. It was god awful.
See, I actually liked what was the show that he was on during good old Nickelodeon?
Even Stevens?
Back when I was a little kid, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it was on Disney Channel back when they were still a good channel.
Yeah. You had like Hilary Duff. Remember Hilary Duff? We all had a crush on Hilary Duff.
Yeah, and Kim Possible.
Oh yeah, geez, good days.
Corey in the House, classic Disney.
Oh man. So anyway, this is where I have a problem with, because again, Rich just seems too dense to understand this isn't coming from anti-progressive alt-right philosophies. It's coming from people that troll, and they troll for various reasons, just to get a reaction.
God.
Note that the authors are trying to come off as having a civil discussion. Of course, that's how you troll. Oh, please. I think we need to skip over this nonsense. The discussion about the idea that women aren't people is one for civilized folk. You can see a lot of similar discourse in the writings of 19th century politicians defending slavery in America. Don't get me started on that subject, because, man, those statues, you go back to some of the kind of South's history, and they're tearing down statues of some of the more moderate some of the people that were so against the. Why can't I think of his story? What's the one the general of the time? People should do some research with that too, because for his time he was insanely progressive, and in fact he was against the Civil War until it came when his state seceded, and he had to make a decision of which state was he more loyal to his state or more loyal to his country, and he decided he was more loyal to his state. He was a Virginian before he was an American, and that was kind of how people were back in the day. But it was actually.
Are you talking about Robert E. Lee?
Yeah, Robert E. Lee, where he was actually very, very progressive for his time. And so when people, it's everyone back then was extremely racist. Everyone, and that's not justifying or rationalizing it. It's just, man, they're like, I think they're barking up the wrong tree. Because for his time, he was way more progressive than people are now. That's for sure. But anyway, I'm sure I'll get hate for that. Now I'm definitely a white supremacist, right?
Yeah, definitely. The first sentence on the next paragraph kind of gave me this thought about just this entire article and
this one here,
general, because
critical.
Yeah, word selection is critical, and it's a big reason why I believe a group of men, blah blah blah. And I'm just scrolling through the article, and I'm seeing him make 8 to 9 paragraph long rebuttals to tiny little things. It feels like this entire article wasn't necessarily meant to defend his ideals or anything similar to that. I think it was more of, this is a hot button issue. This will get clicks to hipsters of the coast because, as you were saying, it's pretty much on life support since its inception. And padding this out gives it a decent amount of read time and ad space or whatever, however websites work. And it just it feels very echo chambery and just repeating the same things. And he's just really dragging things out. He's pulling
and trying so hard.
Pulling a desolator magic by taking something that's worth talking about for 3 minutes and dragging it out to 25
Did you just
minutes.
Say he who should
like
not
that?
Be named?
That's this in article form.
I might have to kick you off my stream. You just name his name who should not be named.
Oh, whatever. It's not like the only reason
why show up.
It's not like the only reason why my channel is successful is because I made a video talking shit about him.
I think that's how I found your channel, to be honest. I think it was, or you responded to something else. But yeah, that was definitely what got me to subscribe and start talking to you. So I always thought that I would kill my own base, and because the guy just loved me. He looked up, he worshipped the ground I liked because I was rogue deck builder, and it was just one of those things. It's like, oh god damn, is this my community? Is this my? Please don't be my not like this, not like this. And then when you
Matrix. Not like this.
So anyway, when you made your videos, I just like, okay, it's time for me to come out of the closet about this issue.
Yeah, I just like I needed to I wanted to come up with a video. I made it for friends actually in a shit posting group, magic shit posting group, and everyone was just the flavor of the month was Desolator Magic. So I was like, I'm gonna make a video on him, and sure enough, it totally worked, and it worked way more than I thought. And I feel like those same people they're still watching that same video because I've been watching the like and dislike ratio on that. It has stayed 50-50 since the day I uploaded it. It's fucking great.
I'm with you.
And just see, still to this day, I get great comments from people defending Desolator Magic. I get ones from Bad Boy MTG as well, but the ones from Desolator are still great, talking shit on me about it, like saying like, oh, Des has changed now. He puts gameplay in his videos, but they didn't even notice that I uploaded the video over a year ago.
Yeah.
It's just people are just like, oh, he does gameplay videos now. Oh, so you mean he makes the same type of videos, but with Borderlands gameplay?
Yeah.
Cool. Good job, Desolator.
I think we'll have to do a podcast exclusively for this subject sometime. And then we'll really burn some bridges in the MTG community. But yeah, I'm with you here. This is way looking into this. I think that actually female rolls off the tongue better here when you're putting a sentence together. And maybe this is just the preferred way a person. I actually think female works in this sentence more because woman is more specific.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, is an attempt to continue the idea that it's a civil, rational discourse based on some kind of empirical evidence because a female is a more scientific term. Holy, this is just grasping.
That's what I mean. He's trying to make as big of an article as he can out of something that he has obviously no input on. I could make a 15-minute video with 10 times the amount of insight, yet 2 times the amount of effort. Like, this guy obviously has no idea what he wants to talk about other than he's mad at the question that this person asked.
Yeah. The idea of honesty and dishonesty is one that comes up frequently when trying to converse with members of Magic's alt-right community. Again, you keep putting that terminology out. Am I alt-right? I want Rich, respond to this video. Am I alt-right, Rich? Please tell me what I am. Label me instead of me labeling myself here, because you're really seeming to lump so many people into this made up. Does anyone even use that term anymore? I think that the now alt-right did successfully, take over that term, because it started more of a what's the teabaggers movement, the Tea Party.
The
Tea Party movement. Yeah, the Sarah Palin.
The teabaggers.
That was
what did they do? Did they play Halo all day?
when that movement started, it was like that was the because again, I tend to side with Republicans when it comes in Republicans and Democrats, but that was like the beginning of the end of the Republican Party for me. But anyway, here we see a turn from illusion of rational discourse and instead an appeal to moral values. Honesty is a core value that everyone can support. No one wants to be labeled dishonest, and you'll often see Donald Trump refer to the media as being dishonest. The use of it's not honest here instead of it's wrong. It's an attempt to appeal to this. It wasn't honest, though. That's the whole thing. It wasn't there. The point was made. Do I believe it's kind of a moot point? Yeah, because was the art wrong? No. Is this? It's nothing that it's within the bounds of what I think is perfectly fine. If they want to, sure. If they want to put a female there, they can put it there. That's another thing I didn't. Huntmaster of the Fells got turned to a female. No disrespect, Jeremy, but that was such a non-issue. In fact, I think the new one was such a good picture.
I like the new art. I love Magali Villeneuve, however you pronounce her name. She's probably one of my more favorite new artists, and I love that art for Huntmaster. I actually wish that was the standard for it, because I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, me too. And so, again, all right, so now we have the core argument. Now that you've been told this is a civil discourse and that we're discussing moral honesty, the author makes their bold claim: women don't belong in competitive Magic. We've already established that's not what the statement said. It says this doesn't belong in the demographics of it's not fair. It's not a representation. They don't say anything factual here, simply state their misogynistic opinion that competitive game is a place for men, and they don't. This. Oh, wow. Talk about how many fallacies can people point out there? Put them in the comment section of what fallacies this breaks. It's a lot of assumptions, that's for sure. So why is this important?
This.
And what did Mark get wrong with his response? Nothing Mark said was incorrect. One in about every 4 Magic players is a spike, meaning that they play because they have something they want to prove. Please, someone give me the statistics for that, because I think the spikes think they're more important than they really are. I think that casual players, like the Commander format, has proven that time and time again. Spikes are actually a minority. I would say 1 in 10. And I would say that spikes are the most unwelcoming and most intolerable group to be around, because also going along with spike is going to be the rules lawyers. It's going to be the angle shooters. It's going to be I think even the Pro Tour this time around was a crap show with some of the judge calls and some of the just bullshit.
I haven't watched it.
It doesn't happen that often, and it's gotten a lot better. But when I used to grind on the kind of PTQ Grand Prix circuit, it was the norm. My Modern Masters 1 tournament was the biggest crap show ever. My opponents were my Yosei. When I tried to sacrifice my Yosei because I was trying to communicate with my foreign opponent that we were going into his end step, but we weren't in his end step, that I wanted to sacrifice my Yosei, but he said since I said the words end step meant that we were in his end step, and we had to call a judge and argue, and he was the better arguer with the judge. And then even though my intent was clearly there, that I wanted to sacrifice my Yosei during his main phase so I could tap all his creatures and swing in for lethal on my turn. Whew, that was a breath.
God.
You know, that kind of stuff, like, that made me want to quit Magic. Not anything that was, remotely misogynistic or that person. And he was so polite. This was the politest I can't remember what European country he was from, but he was the most polite, and he was so nice, and tried to shake my hand after the game, and like, buzz off, dude. And then going from that to my next opponent, where I simultaneously with one hand went to draw a card, and simultaneously with my other hand removed a trigger from Epicrysit. And we had to wait for a judge, and I explained to him, the worst case scenario, the judge is going to give me a warning saying that I have to remove suspend triggers. But it was
it's suspend. Okay.
And ambidextrous. I'm upkeep draw.
That's something that automatically happens regardless if you moved it or not.
Good God,
right?
yes. I was going to get Epicrysit back and then have a hasty creature to attack him with. He wanted to delay another turn to try to, because he was so far behind. Angle shooters. This is the spikes. So they are actually a very minority. And there are a lot of competitive players I wouldn't even classify as spikes. I wouldn't put even some of our pro players as spikes. There are definitely people, I would put even like, I don't want to say Craig Wesco because I have no respect for the guy, but I think he's more of a Timmy than a spike. He's very spiky in some things. And Brian Kibler.
He's the white
I didn't.
Obviously not a
exactly.
spike.
Brian Kibler, Conley Woods. A lot of those I wouldn't even consider fair comparisons to call them spikes, but anyway. So let's just go down
they like to use that term conveniently for wizards or just anybody else in general. Like I kind of have this, not necessarily controversial, but I just don't like the typographic scheme as is. I don't like I understand why it's there, and I understand why people use it, and it's part of human nature to have the need to label things, so it's easier to understand it to give you context. But when it comes to referring to Magic players as one of 3 certain sects, Johnny, Timmy, Spike, I don't like that idea. Even when you try to expand, you bring in the Melvin and Vorthos thing, like, it comes across less as a genuine way to describe your players and more as a cynical way to describe your consumers.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I tend to like labels because I think people do at least lean towards one of those more than the other. But I definitely have all 3 in me. And we all, and at different times in my Magic career, I bounce between them. So it's the funny thing about this artwork, though, is it's very derogatory towards spikes. It's making fun of spikes. It's like saying they're willing to play a banned card to choose a card you own from outside the game that is in banned or restricted in a constructed format. Reveal that card and put it into your hand. I want to cheat to get an edge. It's making fun of spikes. Good. So anything they're being misogynistic. Are they calling women cheats? Did wizards literally just call women cheats? We're boycotting Magic. This is misogynistic.
I think they called black women cheats because it's a black card and it uses Phyrexian mana. And Phyrexian mana is a broken mechanic that they'll never bring back. So
I know.
What are they saying about black women?
What are they talking about? Their women player base. That is just wow. Wow.
Yeah.
This is just as legitimate.
And the
we
flavor
should write an
text.
article. It'd be just as legitimate as this BS. Just ugh.
The flavor text, it says, "Just wait, I have a response." Does that mean that black women are sassy? Why am I on this argument still? But I'm kind of grasping at straws. But yeah,
well, no more than this article is.
We're making almost the exact same
stuff.
kind of our comparisons or our ways of describing this card in our, because we're being jestful, is almost as comparable as how this person is with this article, except we're using it as a form of comedy rather than a form of accusation.
Yeah.
And it's just, God.
This whole
fucking Wizards. Why does Wizards hate black women? That's the question of the night.
So where did Mark go wrong? The question wasn't for him, it was for you. Diversity and representation in Magic are not ideas that Mark Rosewater is changing his mind on, and certainly not for such a poorly contrived argument. So, well, actually, he responded back to it, so at least he gave it that much merit. So you're kind of arguing your own point here, or arguing against your own point. So this wasn't about challenging Mark, it was about challenging you, the casual Magic fan who reads the blog or reads Reddit. It was crafted to read by people for whom the message would resonate. The post wasn't short. A recruiting flyer for Magic's all right. Ugh, get off it. Magic fans and delivering a winning of Mark Rosewater to Reddit. Yes, it was actually a troll, and it was funny that Mark Rosewater fell for it. And yeah, you're right. Mission was accomplished. The troller won. The lesson here is to learn how.
And that's pretty low hanging fruit because that's kind of what Mark Rosewater does on his blog. Yeah. Like, if you're going to ask that question, there's a good chance it's going to get answered. So again, it's just,
Mark Rosewater seems to be very naive, very, I don't know. He just doesn't seem to have the greatest like social skills as far as is genuinely trying to figure out people's intentions. Is that he's childlike? I don't want to call him childish. He's childlike though, and so he's easy to take advantage.
I think that's the issue with it. I think that's the issue with the internet too. Like, I think it's a multitude of things. The fact that he's so high up on the ladder of Wizards of the Coast, he's probably intentionally secluded himself away from people because, in case you haven't noticed, in his interviews, he's very extrovert. He's a very excitable person to talk to. So it wouldn't make sense that he kind of restricts himself in the way that he communicates with people. And it probably explains why he answers so many questions on this blog talk, because he's probably, again, very reclusive.
Yeah.
So, and he's probably someone that isn't used to how people talk on the internet or decipher what people mean on the internet. Like, even I have issues with that. And I had a little tiff with another Magic the Gathering YouTuber. We were able to figure it out, but it was just it just got lost in translation, and that's one of the pitfalls of the internet. And I feel like that, in combination with with him not talking to people, it's just kind of like the perfect storm for him. And the fact that he has so many eyes on him at the same time, and he might just be a nervous person. He just isn't able to handle it in the healthiest of ways.
Yeah. I've talked about my MTGHQ kind of story. That's like a lot of back our history. There wasn't a person on the entire MTG community that didn't like HQ as much as I did, and then we hashed it out and then realized, whoa, we're both looking into it. We were both looking at the other one as a vindictive person, and it was just a miscommunication, and we sorted things out. So I don't know. All right, the lesson here is to learn how to identify this kind of propaganda. Oh, that's stretching still. The overt use of formal phrasing, the internet. They are like, geez, they must think the world is much more, what was the word you used earlier, insidious than it really is.
Right? Like, everyone is out to get each other, it seems.
Yep, the intentional dismissal of women as people through words as female and girl. You're reading way too much into that without clarification. That's very unfair. The attack on perceived morality instead of facts by claiming dishonesty. Again, you're stretching. And finally, the claim that women didn't belong. We've already established, reading way too much into that, that could be interpreted multiple ways. And actually, that's the least likely interpretation. Once you peel away the layers, however, the result is someone simply saying it's perfectly okay to not want women around, and we want you to know that we exist and feel the same way. You can, oh my God, you can find us. Yeah, wow. Do I even have to explain that?
I'm speechless. I honestly have no response. Yeah.
This guy is actually trying. I think he really
Tone
is.
deaf. Tone deaf.
You know what? I
That's my
think this
response.
person actually is insidious here. Is really trying to do this to spark up controversy and get views to his site. Like that. Like this to me. This the more and more this article actually does sound like this person knows what's up. He's actively trying to cause drama.
It's manipulative.
Yeah. Women will always be welcome in the Magic community at every level and across every medium, from kitchen tables of casual paper Magic to unending grind of the Magic Online Champions Series. Okay.
Why do you feel the need to remind us? That should be
Do you know anyone that disagrees with that, Tasty?
No one. That's like saying that you shouldn't, or that's like saying you should drink water to survive. It's that obvious of a statement.
If I had a customer come in and it was like, I don't want to play with it. We actually, funny story about that, we actually did have this happen, but it was little kids. It wasn't adults. These were like 14-year-old kids. And one of them was so upset. This kid doesn't have the greatest emotional skills to begin with. And that's why he's playing Magic. And he got beat by a girl, or he was about to get beat by a girl. And one of his other friends said, "Oh, you can't let this girl beat you." And he had almost a come apart. And that had nothing to do with the community. It was little 14-year-olds. That's the only issue as a game store I've had with this. And do you know what I did? I took him outside and I put my little arm. I didn't put my arm around a 14-year-old. That did not happen. If accusations get started, I took him outside. I'm like, "Hey, you're making it uncomfortable for her. Who cares? Why would it matter if a girl beat you?" And then I'd explain it to him. I rationally walked him through the whole stupid stereotype and explained to him that he was just being teased for a stupid thing, and put himself in her shoes. And would he like to come here if everyone was bringing up her gender over and over and over again? And that's we diffused the situation. And she kept coming back and, played for a period of time before it was actually another person brought her. She came with her. It was a weird situation. I guess I don't need to get into specifics, but they both have fallen off the face of the earth. But, that's the only situation that we've had. Other than that, nothing is brought up. Sometimes it does, like them, she communicate get vulgar. And that's just a lot of ways that friends speak with each other. When I'm with my friends, we get very, vulgar. And say things that we wouldn't say to our mothers. Or
I'm not afraid to say this or ashamed to say this, but when I'm around certain company, there are some very not savory things to say that can get you pretty much in big trouble in today's world. But they're just words that I'm comfortable using around certain people. It doesn't mean that I'm racist or whatever, used any words. It's kind of like that whole PewDiePie situation when he said that word on stream. And it was just like you could obviously tell, because people have been watching him talk for 5 years now, that this is not part of his regular lexicon. This is just something that he just naturally says out of frustration. And because that's something that he used, he's racist.
I had to get rid of the F word. The bundle of sticks word, because of course that is definitely not a word that my business partner likes being thrown around, and that's like a daily occurrence here that we try to get it out of people's vocabulary because they throw it around like it's nothing, And then we had our little 4chaners about 2 years ago think it was so funny to just repeatedly say the N-word over and over and over and over and over, because again they're doing it because of shock value, because they're told they can't say the word, so of course they're going to say the word. But doing it for the reaction. Me though, I grew up. I have a funny story about that in college. That we grew up saying that word is just the biggest insult, the bundle of sticks word, and it was just in my vocabulary, but I never used it as that. And then I had a gay friend in college, and we were sitting around arguing about something just innocuous, movies or something. And I blurted out, only a fag would have that opinion. And the room got silent. Like, oh crap! I did not just say that with my friend directed at my friend. at like that. And it was just one of those days that I'm like, yeah, I better be careful with my words. And it was super embarrassing. And it was one of those, it was pretty funny too, because he got all prissy and he's like, well then, if that's how this is, he got extra sassy and he's like, I'm leaving. And then I had to go chase him out the door and be like, I'm so sorry. I did not mean it that way. And then we went back to being, type stuff. So yeah, that was,
yeah.
But
yeah, I grew up my entire life like I grew up. My mom's pretty liberal. She still is. So I grew up entrenched in gay culture, and I was exposed to many other races very early on, and I was lucky to have that and be exposed to that. So when I used certain words like that word, I use it as a term like to describe someone who's being a jackass, essentially, someone who's just being a general nuisance. And it was incidentally correlated with a different term, but words change. The meanings of things change. Not everything is concrete. The world isn't black and white, no matter how hard you try to make it be. Everything is subjective.
You want to hear
and people just don't seem to understand that.
My naive little Mormon boy from Richfield, Utah, that had no clue about racial terms. I'll go off another tangent. So I was a missionary just Google what a missionary is. Just go watch Book of Mormon the musical, and you can definitely make fun of me. So when a Mormon boy turns 18 years old, they go on missions, and now Mormon girls do too. And I was sent to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, which is very, very diverse. Actually, it's not very diverse. There's a lot of white people and a lot of black people, and that's it. It's actually known as one of the least diverse cities because it doesn't have a lot of Latinos or Asians and things like that. But anyway,
it's because it's so fucking cold.
Yeah, well, people got stuck there. That's the problem. It was such an awful city that the only people that stayed in Pittsburgh were people that too poor to move out of Pittsburgh. But anyway, I digress there. I'm not going to say Pittsburgh. But my first area was actually north of Pittsburgh in an area called Meadville, which is about an hour south of Erie, Pennsylvania. That'd be the closest. About an hour east of Ohio, Cleveland. Is it? Yeah, by Cleveland, hour east of Cleveland. Just to give everyone a general direction where Meadville is, and it was so white. It was as white as white gets. That was the just the demographic there. And so we call them companions, is who you're sent off in pairs. And my second companion, we'd be walking around trying to proselyte, trying to recruit people. That's the term for. And then there'd be a bunch of people hanging out on their porches, and these were white people hanging out on their porches. And my companion would refer to them as lazy porch monkeys, because yes, everyone in Meadville, like I said, Meadville was really in the Rust Belt. It was the Rust Belt is you go from like Cleveland or even Detroit, all the way from Cleveland, you follow the Great Lakes all the way to Buffalo, New York, and it is incredibly depressed. It is incredibly all the industries moved out when all the tool and die and oil and all that kind of stuff got moved to Japan. Steel industry got moved to Japan. Everyone lost their high paying jobs. The only people that got stuck in this Rust Belt were people too poor to leave. So there's a lot of people on welfare, a lot of people that just kind of just hung out all day without jobs. The unemployment rate was huge. And so I thought that term meant lazy. So I get transferred to Pittsburgh, which is incredibly African American, and I'm in a place called Bloomfield, which is a little Jewish neighborhood, but right below it's a place called East Liberty, and we're teaching a family. Actually, the family didn't have any interest in our religion; they just liked a couple of white boys to, just befriend. They were an awesome family. I really wish I didn't lose touch with my little family there in Lawrenceville. That's what the little district was called. The dad's name was Chuck, and he loved westerns. He was the whitest black man I think I've ever met. But Deborah, his wife, was definitely your typical like really strict or really feisty, feisty mama.
Yeah,
bear.
The stereotypical.
Oh yeah, and
attitude.
then they had two daughters that were kind of around our age, and anyway, so we befriended them, and at this point I had kind of lost my testimony is what we called it. I wanted to get out, but I was stuck on my mission, and so I just wanted to kind of hang out with people rather than just teach people. But my companion at the time wanted to teach people, so he was trying to get us to go. We were hanging out on the porch because it's freaking hot in Pittsburgh in the summer, It's so humid too. And so we're hanging out on the porch, and my companion keeps saying, let's go in. Let's go in. Let's go in. Let's go in. I don't want to be out here. And then I'm like, would you chill out? If we want to sit out here and be porch monkeys, then let us. And then it just got so quiet. And I turned to my companion. I turned to one of the girls. I'm like, that's racist, isn't it? And they're like, they just busted up laughing. They just, and this was the thing when they could have thrown me off their porch and, you racist little white boy, get out of here type thing. But they were like, they just busted up laughing because they're like, little naive Kevin from little Utah doesn't know what a racial term is. How cute. And then it was just a running joke from then on out. It was just this, and that was the perfect way to handle something. They could have SJW'd my ass to the corner with that, type thing, and been justified to do so. And that's how you interact with people. It's teachable moments like this article.
That's how you learn how to interact with people. Is you have to go through moments like that. You have to understand that just because you said something offensive, that doesn't mean that's your intention. Communication is key.
Hey, it's Mara on here.
Being acceptable is key.
On my chat, hey Mara, long time. I need to get in touch with you about the website one of these days.
Does she work on your site?
Yeah, she does a deck builder that we have yet to use, and it's beautiful, but I am the laziest pile of garbage ever. I apologize for that. But anyway, so yeah, that's my whole experience with, and that's what I want to go with this article, is this, they claim this is a teachable moment, and it's absolutely not. It's just name calling. There's absolutely name calling through here. And just
no, it is a teachable moment, but not for
the way
the
they
reason
wanted
that
it.
they think.
Exactly. And
it's more of an eye-opening moment, kind of. Like in terms of like Rosewater's actual response was like an eye-opening moment for me. That was like
how low these people over at Hipsters of the Coast are willing to go. And this isn't atypical of their articles. Just go read any one of their other articles. Again, I'll have to tell you my story of how I met them, and they were trying to recruit people to write on their platform. And like, hey, I make content, maybe I can throw some stuff on you. And they like completely blew me off and stuff. And I was like, what's this? So I went home and actually looked at it. I'm like, oh, that's why they hate me. So, and they knew who I was. I just had no clue who they were. Anyway, this last paragraph though is awful. So this is just, what's the appeal to I'm a good person? There's the logical fallacy there. Rich Stein just wants everyone to show compassion and empathy for people, regardless of race, sex, or religion, except when it comes to people who would deny anyone else their rights because of their race, sex, and religion. Those people can go to hell.
This right here is the pedestal, and Rich Stein is my Nintendo Switch. This is me giving him praise for being such a positive beacon in the Magic the Gathering community.
Who thought this was a good idea to write? This is about as good of an idea to write as us doing this podcast at 3 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning my time. But then again, we're not trying to bring a professional website. We're just two idiots with opinions.
Damn, it is. Wow, it's 1:30 over here. Woo, you're staying up late.
Like I said, I was up with Commander players that refused to win the game and wouldn't let me play either. So that was hell for me. They wouldn't leave my store either. See, Zach's the Iron Fist. When we want people out, he'll kick people out. I'm like this soft teddy bear. Oh, you guys want to play? Because I used to be the person that hung out at the game store at wee hours of the night and be like, "Don't kick us out. I got no place to go. Go freeze in the cold somewhere." And so I was down in these Mountain Dews, and I am so caffeine sensitive. That's probably why I'm cutting you off and bouncing off the wall.
It's all good. You made a point earlier talking about the 14-year-old kid in your store and how you had to talk with him about it, and how you were saying that was a problem almost exclusively for people of that age or of that maturity level. And that's part of the thing that these people don't understand on the internet, is that that's the power of anonymity. You don't know whether or not you're talking to a 35-year-old man or you're talking to a 14-year-old child, and more than likely you're talking to a 14-year-old child whose parents let the internet raise them, and they're being edgy on the internet through the power of anonymity. I feel like that's where a lot of these attitudes stem from, these super sexist and misogynistic comments on like YouTube videos and stuff. It's from like kids.
Yeah.
trying to be edgy just as much as it is
Yeah,
trolls.
'cause they don't know any better, and they just hear stuff out of context, and then like, I can do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, and it actually turned into a really good moment. It's you know, it's something now I can tell a story about, and that kid's grown from that experience rather than us just vilify and belittle and berate. And yeah, we also had to take that same kid aside and tell him why cheating is bad. So,
Oh, fun.
yep,
God.
he had some sticky fingers when it came to cheating because he really wanted to win. I'm like, okay, how about you win and deserve it? You'll feel much better. And I had to sit him aside and put my arm around him and say, okay, buddy, I understand. And he's bawling his eyes out because he just got disqualified. And then I broke Wizards policy because we let him back in. I went and talked to his opponent, and I'm like, can we? Of course, his opponent's an adult male, so if he's gonna flip out about a 14-year-old boy cheating, then with poor social skills, then you know, I think it was actually against Tyler, which is, if you guys have met Tyler, he writes on Rogue Deckbuilder. He's the sweetest kid ever, so he was very understanding too. So instead of DQing him, and Zach tends to blow things out of proportion too. He's like, I'm gonna have to call Wizards and report you to them, and they're gonna put you on file. And to a 14-year-old kid, this feels like the cops are coming at him. And I'm like, Zach,
Right.
we're not gonna do any of that. I'm gonna take him outside, and I'm gonna tell him why cheating is bad. And so then we let him back in. We're like, okay, you just get a game loss. So your next opponent, let's not do it. And then he's been pretty good ever since. And again, that's the...
He's not an Alex Bertoncini.
Let's hope not. That guy's back playing, by the way.
Yeah, I heard he got like a game loss or something due to mismarked sleeves, but that's something that commonly happens anyways. Do you think he'll actually be honest this time, or do you think he'll slip up?
No, the guy, I think that 3 or 4 times is repetitive behavior. There's no way. There's no way. The temptation, some people just have that drive. He's just got something to prove, and he's going to do it at all costs. And plus, the temptation will always be there because probably 99 out of 100 times he wasn't caught. And
and I think he flips cards anyways.
Yeah.
So it's not like he has a fallback plan if he can't fucking play anyways. It's not like he cheated his way into a set of power 9. So I'm pretty sure he's set. I think he's just taking this whole heel or villain of Magic, and I think he's embracing it, which he should. I think he should. I think it's kind of good for Magic the Gathering to have a controversial figure to look at that's not necessarily controversial for the reasons that others are controversial. You know, it's a nice little distraction, like a heel in a wrestling event, kind of, almost, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I guess. I guess that, you know, he can be the villain everyone can just hate on. And then how will actually distract us, which is exactly what we need, because this is getting awful. I've always said this before, but I don't think I've ever seen the community so up in arms. And it's like forcing people to change sides. And I think, or choose sides. And I think a lot of people actually aren't this deep on some of the ideologues that are going around there. We mentioned, you know, Saffron Olive earlier. It's like Seth. We've seen some tweets that are a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit suspect. Like he's trying a little hard to be in the in-group, like you said earlier. And other people too, that I don't even think would have some of these positions if it didn't feel like they had to survive. And I know a lot of people, this is their livelihood. Forced. This is their absolute livelihood. They are making or breaking it, whether they're accepting the Magic community. And I do not.
I hate that.
I am such a.
I mean, I don't hate it from just that idea or perspective. I just hate that that's what it comes down to. I hate that people have to do that. You have to rub certain people the right way in order to be successful in the Magic world, and that just really bothers me.
Well, that was something I kind of discovered on my mission too. Man, everything's going back to the mission parables. Is we had a term called apostates for people that lost their belief while they're out, and we're just trying to ride because the last thing you want to do is go home you don't want to go home early from your mission, because then you're perceived as weak. and just so people would just write it out, but they would try to do it. They try to break as many rules as possible because missions are extremely strict. You can't listen to music, you can't read books or magazines, or you work all day long. That's all you do is church stuff because you're supposed to be, because Jesus said, it's your salvation that's on the line. Well, don't you want to be proving to God that you're for God, not worldly and reading crap? So anyway, a lot of people start to go nuts, me included. But so they're called apostates, people that just, finally just give up and just don't care. And then on the other opposite of the spectrum is the anal people, the extremely anal. They're going to be by the book, obey every rule. I had a mission companion that cried one day because I jaywalked. And going back to Meadville, Pennsylvania, if anyone's ever been in Meadville, Pennsylvania, 99% of those lights in Meadville, Pennsylvania have no point because the population of Meadville went from 20,000 to, I believe, like 12,000. And so it was a bustling city. It was dead now.
Oh, call up Rudy. So you went the magic numbers 20 to 12.
Oh yeah, I know. But anyway, a lot of these stoplights were just completely pointless. So I wasn't waiting for a stupid stoplight. So I just crossed it, and he cried. He literally cried because now we weren't going to baptize people because I was being disobedient. That kind of stuff. So that's how wound people were. And I just did a little social experiment, kind of psychological experiment on all my companions, that about 20% of them were completely gone. They're apostates. They were kindred spirits to me. And about 20% of them were extremely anal and were going to be by the book no matter what you did. And the rest of them were persuadable. And so I think that's kind of the tier we're in right now. And there are a lot of people that are susceptible just to social pressures. And when articles like the one we just read, or people making companies like Card Kingdom coming out and like saying, okay, we're going to support this brand only, like people that politically align with us. We all know I lost a collaboration with Seth that the fans wanted over his boss not wanting me because I was too controversial of a figure. I also lost a couple other sponsorships with various groups just because of a lot of them are just my associations, just because I dare be friends with Jeremy.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous because half the stuff Jeremy puts out, I don't even agree with. So.
Right. I'm kind of the same. Like, he's someone that I enjoy as like an entertainer. I don't necessarily agree with 100% of them, but just like I said before, again, causation is correlation. You like him, so that must mean you're with him.
So, I got to be fair though. I think that Jeremy has come to the point that he is almost infallible in my mind because we've established a friendship, and of course, I'm going to side with a friend. I'm going to try to defend a friend, even if my friend's in the wrong. Beyond anything else, going back to my personality type too, as an ENFP, we're coined the champion because that's our Achilles heel, is trying to stick up for people that we have established a friendship or relationship with. Hence why my horrible relationship lasted as long as it did. But it's going to take me a lot to not love the guy for what he's done for me. We had some great times in Vegas. It was just, he seems, when I know the guy beyond, I guess now we're getting to the HQ discussion, beyond kind of the superficial things that happen on Twitter or on YouTube, he's a good guy. And yeah,
he, like, people I feel like don't really give him a chance. They just see him as a target and like, oh, you do pack openings, you shouldn't talk about politics, or the people who are just like staunchly against him and use him as their ammo when they're talking about him behind blocks or whatever. Like, if you watch anything on like his second channel or anything, he seems like a very legitimate person that is just trying to be honest, and it seems very concerned more about the health of the game than the political state of the game.
And I'm a little bit worried about him right now too, because the Wizards created a monster with tweet by Trick Jarrett. It was Trick Jarrett that started when MTG HQ, when Jeremy,
or it was a response on Reddit. I thought it was
maybe so, or a tweet. Whatever the medium was, where people are like, "You're giving this guy a spoiler. Do you know who he is?" Yeah. And then Trick replied with an apology, saying they didn't know what type of person he was, which was just absolutely put yourself in his shoes and thinking that all of a sudden you were getting spoilers. You're thinking that your brand he'd actually toned it down to try to play nicer with everything, and then all of a sudden be told that you're just a a deplorable or someone that is just not accepted in the community. So the article we just read was all about acceptance, acceptance, acceptance. And now here's a person that said, basically from Trick Jarrett, who is God at Wizards of the Coast, get out of my community. So how are you going to react? How in the world would you expect a rational human being to react? He, of course, is going to be like, okay, it's on then. And so if they don't like this whole problem that has become the Jeremy problem, they caused it. And now Jeremy's got the ear
it's
of
a
like
Streisand effect
of like Sargon Akkad and you know, all the connections that Sargon have. You're going to start getting like, you know, who's
like
even
Rags
bigger than him. And you know, Chris Reagan, and then whatever goes after that, the Rubin Report, Crowder, things like that. Assange,
it keeps
Julian
growing.
Assange. You keep going up to there. That's the type of stuff you're going to bring into this crap, just because you decided that instead of taking the high road and just ignoring that and just saying,
like
you know,
Magic's a pretty popular game that a lot of people have a lot of nostalgic feels for, and when they will hear that the game is in a culturally or tumultuously or whatever, we're in cultural turmoil, and they see it for these specific reasons. I feel like if anything, it gives Jeremy a much better platform to stand on.
Yep.
To see that
that's the whole position we're in. And again, I haven't been too happy with some of the things today. I even tweeted out two of my favorite people going at it on Twitter. You know, that is terrible for me, being in the middle of, like, I'm really good friends. Let's put it out there again. I'm really good friends with Jeremy. I'm also extremely good friends with Cardsphere. People have accused me of being disingenuous about like Cardsville and maybe being manipulated or bought out by them. They haven't sent me a dime. They refuse to send people a dime. It's against their core beliefs because they saw what it did to Puka Trade.
Good.
And so everything that I have said about Cardsphere has come from a 100% legitimate point of view. They have not squeaked my wheels. Oh, never mind. They sent me some stickers once to put on packages. Sell out. You got me. Some Cardsphere stickers. I did it for some 20-cent stickers.
So what happened with him and Cardsphere?
Cardsphere, one of the gentlemen.
I'm gonna go on his Twitter.
Maybe I'll pull it up too, since I've got this. So Hipster of the Coast wanted to. Now, what's the logical fallacy of when they try to plant the field, the seed that that's the wrong fallacy I'm thinking about. But anyway, before they released this article, they showed a picture of the spike, the artwork, and said, "What do you think about this?" That was it. That was the tweet. And then Cardsphere tweeted back that as a father of two, I couldn't be happier that Spike is a female, the world champion is gay, and something we have a lot of diversity throughout Magic, something like that. And that was it. That was the whole point. But again, you got to kind of put yourself in Jeremy's shoes too about this us versus mentality. Hipster of the Coast has been actively trying. They doxed him. They put his and if you read the bottom of that article again, remember, they can go to hell. Everyone that doesn't agree with us can go to hell. What does that entail? Oh, that entails, what is hell? That's destruction. That's I can read into that phrase as much as they can read into any of the other phrases. They want to destroy him. And so anyone associated with them is, of course, going to get, I did think Jeremy's reaction was overblown and against the wrong target and whatnot. And I don't think that Cardsphere sent out anything remotely even controversial. I mean, that's fine. I could care. We've already established I could care less if Spike's a girl or a guy. It's great there is diversity. Everyone should be welcome. We shouldn't be saying some groups should not be played. We can debate why certain categories do play and why others don't, and we can go biological, we can go social, we can, as long as that debate is open. But
right, as long as it's reasonable.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where actually progression will happen, is when we can actually discuss this stuff without fear of retribution from the other side, which is obviously not going to happen. And it's got out of control by both sides. So yeah, to me, it's just, I see where Jeremy's coming from. I wish he'd tone it down with that aspect of it, because I don't think he has anything to gain from
Popo's comment in the comment section. I just think it's really funny, because I spent a lot of years playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Saying Yu-Gi-Oh! Has more diversity than Magic will ever have. I just think it's hilarious. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's fine. Yeah. So
God. Yeah, so Jeremy responds to that.
Yeah. It's just his response. I just want people to cut him some slack right now. That's the only thing I can say, is because just use a little bit of empathy here and put yourself in his shoes and have all of that crap just thrown at you, especially when it wasn't his tweet that was offensive. It was Desolator's tweet that was the one that could have been construed as offensive. Because it was all over the bathrooms thing, and Desolator said, well, where I identify as a planeswalker, where do I pee? And all HQ responded back, or Jeremy responded back with, you don't have to worry, planeswalkers piss into the aether. They don't need a bathroom.
Yeah.
What? How is that
or
transphobic?
Maybe it was because they already had blacklisted Desolator Magic, and they saw that he was joking along with it, and he wasn't condemning Desolator Magic for saying that. In fact, he was adding to it. Maybe that's why
Trump has got that. People have always said that against Trump. Well, Trump hasn't condemned it, therefore it. Oh, shut up.
Right.
Oh man, that would be tiresome, having to like go through all of the evils in the world and have to one by one condemn everything. And at that point, I think everyone is still playing. I think I was still even playing nice with Desolator clear back then, because I didn't know how deep that rabbit hole went. So, and now I think we've all kind of seen, that. But again,
I like your response to Card Sphere down the chain. Where you were saying,
now let's pull this up, see if I don't get any private information on here.
This is exactly what I'm talking about when no actual dialogue occurs, just assumptions about one another. That's the most important thing. Nobody actually talks. They all just make.
See if I can share this without getting in trouble for that. Does that do anything? So here's the tweet. So Rip Cardsphere, glad to know to never support your platform, because he says the father of 2 kids couldn't be happier that a Spike is a girl, that the world champ is gay, that we have characters, players, streamers, personalities of all gender identities, sexualities, and ethnic backgrounds. Sure, no problem. And then it says, so then Cardsphere shot back with, didn't you already make that choice when we declined to pay for the coverage? So I'm sure they probably had some discussions. They probably wanted HQ to review it. Jeremy sent back as, well, pay me and I'll review it, because Jeremy is under the belief that content creators should be paid for their time. Sure, I'm with that. Cardsphere also reached out to me, or I actually checked it. Actually, I don't think Cardsphere ever reached out to me. It was fans that did. Said, Kevin, please, you're a market guy, look at it. And I did. I'm like, holy, this is great service. But anyway. And then I just responded back, oh boy, 2 of my favorite people going at it on Twitter. Rough times ahead indeed. The community is so divided right now. Ugh. And then there was another. Oh, they started by sorry to disappoint. And I said, Bleh, I can see both sides of the issue and think everyone is assuming the worst of each other. This is exactly what I'm talking about when no actual dialogue occurs, just assumptions about one another. Because it just got back into a spat between the two rather than talking about the issue.
Yeah, like that's kind of what Twitter has devolved into. It's kind of devolved into mini roasts or ways to just get at a person. It seems Twitter has become more of a platform of aggression than conversation, just because of the political tension in the air. But everyone's just so aggressive and snappy. I don't understand why. Why can't people just be open and critical about anything anymore? They always just have to have an opinion. They have to have a hot take. They need that attention. It really bothers me.
Yeah. Man, we've opened up a can of absolute worms today. I guess that's the topics we were going to cover. We were going to talk about the Iconic Masters being oversaturated and screwing local games.
Oh yeah.
But I think I'm going to save that with a podcast with actually Jeremy from NC Headquarters. We have some very funny screenshots to show everyone about the Wizards Play Network and whatnot. But I guess we'll just open up to everyone that still might be watching. I don't know. I wasn't even checking the views. Probably not that many, but
we've been staying in like the 30s.
Oh wow!
Pretty much the whole time.
That's 30 people. We have ears with.
Yeah, 2:30 at night. Yeah. Probably like 5:30 in the morning somewhere else.
Yeah, this is the only time I can get the Tasty on, man. He's a graveyard person, and I'm
a night owl.
But I like Tasty a lot. Everyone should definitely go check his channel out. I get flack for being your friend too, buddy. That's
really
well. A lot of it's from Desolator fans. They come at me with and Desolator himself sending me messages of how dare I support you. That's when I lost all respect. Is when I think I hadn't even had a spat with him, and then I liked your video or something. He freaked out. I commented on the videos.
It was, you had me on your channel.
That's what it was. Yep.
And he commented it. We turned that into a copy pasta in the shitposting group. We still post it every once in a while. But yeah, that fucking comment where he's just like, I lost all respect for you. Like, really, dude? Really?
That's a pet peeve of mine. Coming from once back again to the Myers-Briggs personality, ENFP. ENFPs are usually loners when it comes to groups. We've never, like, growing up, I never fit in a group, and so I'd have friends from a bunch of different groups in high school. And my high school is so cliquey. Like, we had the jocks and the drama and so I'd have a friend out of each one, and I could never get them to, like, they'd always fight, and it was always a pet peeve of mine. And I can't stand it when people tried to guilt me through association, and so that's just a relic of that. And when, of course, he went after me because daring to be friends with someone he hates. Oh, get off yourself. It's just as bad as the sponsors being like, oh, you're friends with HQ? Can't have you on. Yep.
Jeez.
You dare stand up for, Zach Jesse or, what was that other dude? The Jim Davis?
The Zach Jesse situation. Oh, God, that's something I could go on about.
Me too.
Hours.
Me too. That was absolutely horrendous the way they dealt with it. Absolutely. Especially when it was a professional smear campaigner that brought the issue up. He was
True
a
Levin?
professional
Jesus.
smear campaigner. That was his job, is to dig up dirt about people. And I still stand by my statement that probably got me exiled. Is what does that say to us as a society if we can't let a person be rehabilitated? There was no indication that he wasn't remorseful, and we don't even know the evidence of it. We don't know anything. Just that he took a plea. We could go through that whole can of worms again. No, it's a he said, she said thing. We don't. I've had accusations. I've had, things that have been unjustly said about my character. We'll talk about when I was a swim team coach. I had a girl report me to the police office. Like, she reported me to the principal. The principal investigated, didn't find anything, and so she thought that wasn't good enough and called the cops. This happened to me as a swim coach.
Jesus.
And it's just because she hated me and wanted to do harm, and used her femininity to try to say victim, victim, victim. And she tried to say that I sexually harassed her, and there was no, it was unfounded completely. And the principal called in a bunch of kids and got all their statements, and then that wasn't good enough for her. So then she called the cops to try to get my principal in trouble, saying my principal wasn't taking things seriously. And it was ridiculous. It was absolutely. And so I know exactly what it can be to be at the, and that's a whole other can of worms we could get into about, it's rape if a girl's drunk, but if a man's drunk, it's it's consensual.
Double standards.
Yeah,
that's how our society works.
I think Bam Margera just put out a YouTube video. You can go check that out. Everyone remember Bam from Jackass? And he's getting a lot of hate because he's laughing during his story, but he's like, yeah, a man can be raped. It happened against me. I was super drunk, passed out, and I had groupies. We had groupies. That's what happened back in the, we're celebrities. And one time I was passed out in my room, and some, woman, of course he's very drunk.
I think I know what you're talking about. It's from a podcast, isn't it?
Yeah. It came in and took advantage of it.
To that
and yeah, I see it because I'm still part of I'm still subscribed to the men rights Reddit and stuff like that, because even though I think that a lot of times they're way off base and it turns into a woman hating ridiculousness, there's a lot of gold in that forum post too, and this is where one of them came from. And he's like, look, it happened to me and whatnot, so please don't tell me it can't happen. And it's just the double standard is, and Watsy's been, that's where I lost all respect for Watsy. Watsy's been, when I say Watsy, Wizards of the Coast, has been caught in a lot of double standards with crap. And it's just...
I don't know what Watsy's become at this point. They're a husk of their former selves. I feel like since Return to Ravnica Theros era is when things started taking a drastic turn in where we are now, in conjunction with their political attitudes, card quality, communication with LGSs, communication with the players in general. aggressive reprinting. I could go on and on. It's just
it all happened. You diagnosed it the very first with when the left really got on its high horse with Obama, when Obama was elected. You're spot on with that analysis, that then all of a sudden they thought, okay, we won. Now we can be the tyrants now. And I think that Wizards I blame Wizards completely in its geographical location. I think that if Wizards was, because what has happened now for 20 years, they've hired people from that culture that have then hired other people from that culture that have hired other. You can see what they did with people that didn't align with them. They kicked them out. Go read their Glassdoor reviews. They're terrible, and it's just little by little they've just becoming more extreme on just the geographical level of where they've located. And they've turned Wizards of the Coast in a show off. I'm going to show off to my other Seattle elite people and see, look at my company's doing. We'll one up you.
We should get Travis Wu on here because he was an intern there for a while. I'm sure he'd have some gold about how they act.
Well, people keep wanting to blame Hasbro. I don't think Hasbro has much to do with it. I don't think Hasbro even cares about Wizards. They're just like, keep the money rolling, guys.
Yeah, I feel like Hasbro affects the more of the like reprint side and the card quality side. That's where Hasbro comes in, but their attitude,
they're the ones squeezing the cow for every drop of milk, which is going to eventually kill the cow. I mean, Hasbro is another bad thing that happened. And the whole reason that why Hasbro bought Wizards of the Coast is it was insanely profitable, and it saved them in a time when their sales were way low. It was their one shining star. And so I don't think Hasbro wanted to shake anything up. They're like, you guys keep doing you. In fact, I think they gave them more free reign than their previous owners had. And that led to a lot of... I mean, this has been in the making. This didn't happen overnight. This has been decades and decades of we saw it with the Tyrant of... the Triumph of Ferocity debacle. Mm-hmm. Which actually Gathering Magic...
Oh, God, with Garrick and Liliana.
Yeah. Gathering Magic was actually responsible for one of the worst articles ever published of all time, which is funny because that author came back to bite them and really say bad things about the organization when they eventually did let them go.
Man, I remember that. That was like when 2012.
Oh yeah, Avacyn Restored and whatnot.
2012.
Talk about an artwork that had nothing to do with anything.
Right, and people got super offended by that. And like 2 years prior, there was like a Grand Prix playmat that had like this goblin with like a bunch of women. And, it was a bit more suggestive and it's more understandable.
I'm definitely okay with that. We had to, I hated Force of Will. We actually refused to carry Force of Will in our shop because we're like, geez, we have 14-year-old boys in here. They're already, we have 14-year-old girls in here. We have.
Hold on. I have a Force of Will playmat. I have like 4 or 5 of them. I got really into that game, and I will say Force of Will is a fantastic game. For people that really like Commander, I highly suggest that you give Force of Will a try because it's worth getting into. The game's super cheap too.
It was some of those, especially some of the promos. There was one of them, man, you could see some wedgies that were showing some stuff.
Yeah, the cat very early on in the game. I opened one of those and someone explained to me that it was $120 because her ass was showing.
Yeah, exactly.
And there was another censored version.
So we, as a local game store, made the active decision that we weren't going to carry it because our demographics were probably, and we're in Mormon City. Like we're already, we're being very risky with our business having a gay manager, or a gay store owner. So, we don't want to give them any ammo that they can't. Look, my kids are getting into this. We actually talked about that. Like, what if that particular 14-year-old boy that I was talking about earlier went home to his mom and said, "Look what I got from Gone Rail Games." Oh man, and I happen to know this woman, and she can be a very angry woman. I used to actually work with her decades ago, and she can be a very angry person you don't want to have to deal with when you don't want to. And so we're running through these scenarios, like, yeah, we'll just not carry it. It's a little too promiscuous for our demographic, and it's not like I personally find anything wrong with that. Like, one of the things that I can't stand is what I call male sexual shaming, which is, I don't know how the next generation is going to be able to reproduce because everyone's going to be so terrified.
God, yeah.
And so
I have my own opinions about that. There's a reason why I stay single, and it has a lot to do with the whole perspective of men are just pigs, and it's just like, I'm not even gonna fucking try. You can all fuck off.
Yep, I hear you there. But at the same point, that's it. When I was recovering from my relationship, borderline personality disorder, a crazy girl, a lot of people just told me, well, all women are crazy. And then I had to stop myself and be like, no, everyone. Because actually, the best thing for me was support groups. And the vast majority of them were actually women that were in the support group that had. I just think that women tend to go to support groups a lot easier than men. It's just a male thing to be like, I don't have a problem. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's a manly thing not to admit my problem. The same reason why I think domestic abuse with males isn't reported, because a male, it takes like a certain you have to admit to yourself that you're being abused against your consent, which I don't think a lot of men are willing to do. But at support groups, I met a ton of just amazing women who definitely had borderline personality disorder husbands, and they were just the greatest support system ever. And so I didn't give up on women just because of the amazing. My therapist was a woman, and man, if she was 30 years younger, I would have definitely fallen head over heels for her, because she's one of the most intelligent, compassionate people I've ever met. And yeah, so I haven't given up on relationships. I'm just stuck in Richfield, Utah, where with the barrier between religion, no one wants to date a non-Mormon. And if you are a non-Mormon, sometimes that means, like here in Utah, a lot of people that don't practice religions are what we call like the people that can't help themselves from not adhering to the, so you'll get the kind of more, how do I do this without insulting people? Kind of the more promiscuous or more trashy. Can I say that without being super, super offensive? People. So, of course, I'm not going to, date someone like that. And then I'm not going to date a person that's religious either, because it's never going to work out. I've already gone through so many relationships where.
I can't do religious.
Well, one of my last girlfriends, we actually had the talk that if we were to get married, if we had kids, would I be okay raising them Mormon? And then, of course, that comes up and it's like, well, probably not. And then we had to make the adult decision to say, well, this isn't going anywhere. See ya. Type thing, and that's heartbreaking and whatnot, but it is what it is. So I haven't given up. I'm not that pessimistic, because I think actually men are more of the problem with this whole movement than women are. It's the male feminists and the male judges and the male cops and the male that are perpetuating this crap. Most women actually understand perfectly fine that with the discrimination or whatnot, that it's a lot of it's a non-issue. It's men that refuse to believe it's a non-issue, like wage gap and things like that. So but anyway, we're getting away cans of worms.
Right. I was going to say, Mara responded, I don't think we will have a problem reproducing.
Is that because we can artificially inseminate everyone?
Yeah, I was thinking to myself,
I was Morty like, episode, just the sex
robots. We could turn into a utopian society that uses like incubators to grow future children. I think that could be a possibility, especially if like infertility becomes a thing. I'm pretty sure
one of the Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman's fantasy stories, like the dark something trilogy. It's illegal to reproduce the old way, and someone does, and then it causes a imbalance in the force or whatever they were doing. Someone tweeted out on what Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman book was that? The Dark Something. I read it as a kid. But anyway, man, we're just digressing.
Oh. Yeah. What were we talking about? We were talking about
women don't like having sex. That's a myth. It's women aren't.
No.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, they don't like that. Come on.
It's just men that want that. Oh man.
Those sounds that you hear, those are sounds of pain and horror. Those aren't anything else.
That's it. You know what that's so hilarious about one of my relationship, man, I'm getting into all kiss and tell stuff. One of my relationship partners, I could definitely accuse her of raping me multiple times by the feminist definition of rape. The begging and pleading and threatening, and I mean it was all in a fun, playful way, but man, was she was always, you better, or all, and get physical. Nope, get off that computer right now. We're going. But reverse it, and then anyway. Jesus, how'd I get? Because it's 2:30. Kiss my sponsorships goodbye. Kevin, am I Mormon? If you go back I talk about this throughout the podcast a lot. I am definitely ex-Mormon. Actually, I call myself an ex-Mormon, because ex-Mormons are ridiculous, and I can't stand their cult either. and they are a cult. The ex-Mormon group. Just go to Reddit/r/ex-Mormon. Go research the little girl that was so brave that got up in sacrament meeting, which is one of the most boring things you'll ever go to, is a thing called sacrament meeting on the first Sunday. There's a thing, or fourth Sunday, first or fourth, I can't remember. Is what's called fast and testimony meeting, where people get up and bear their testimonies in front of the congregation. It goes something like this. They have little kids, so like 3-year-olds. I'd like to bear my testimony. I know the church is true. I know Jesus loves me. And like stuff like that. And like, it's just complete. But anyway, so this little, what was her name? Samantha or Sabrina or some Savannah, I think is what it was so brave because she was going to get up in sacrament meeting in a Mormon church and tell everyone about how she is not adhering to their beliefs because she's a lesbian. And it was so staged, and God. It just made me facepalm. It's like, oh, shut up. Like, of course, I have no problem with that. That's perfectly acceptable. But you're in their facility. What did you expect? They cut her mic off. It went viral. She was on Ellen. If you guys remember, if anyone knows that. And I'm like, oh, come off yourself, ex-Mormon community. You are so... And I got kicked off the Reddit. I can't post on Reddit/r/ex-Mormon now because they kicked me off. Because I dare insulted their prophet, too. Their prophet's name's John DeLynn. And he's a huge ex-Mormon, but he was famous because he did a website which I now 100% believe was a troll website or just like a victim. He was setting himself up to be the victim when they excommunicated him because he was trying to act like he was trying to stay part of the church, but he just couldn't anymore. He really wanted to, but he couldn't. But I'm convinced at this point that it was all calculated. And I dare insulted their prophet, John DeLynn. And so now I am excommunicated from the ex-Mormon community. So I'm double not religious.
God. So I don't know if you still want to talk about this MTG headquarters card sphere thing, but I kind of wanted to bitch more about Wizards of the Coast.
Hey man, I talked forever. Go for it. We're just kind of rambling at this point for whenever you want to do this long ass stream for.
Okay.
We should be doing this for charity, right? How long can we stay up for?
Right? God, I gotta be up till at least...
Don't get me started on charities, because that will get me... If I want to lose any sort of faith, I hate charities. I hate them with a passion. Another thing for another day.
I hate charity companies like Goodwill and Salvation Army.
Salvation Army is the biggest offender because they prey on gamers. They prey on them.
Yep. I hate them. Anyways, another company that preys on gamers, Wizards of the Coast. So I don't know if you had your store open when Clash packs were a thing.
Yeah, no, but I was still helping out the previous store. Yep.
Do you remember what the quality of the last Clash pack was?
The foiling was so dark, and they were so. I still have coursers. I can pull them out and show people. They're so messed up because it's one of those cards that people want on Cardsphere, and I keep trying to send off. I'm like, there is no such thing as near mint foils from Clash packs.
Yeah. There was... So at the time I was working for an LGS it's the LGS that I still frequent and I'm very partial towards, but I was working for them and we were opening them en masse because he would flip the singles online. And that's one of the main reasons why they stopped doing Clash packs. But that product, and I'm not exaggerating, about around 40 to 50% of it, the cards in it, you'd have the dark foils like you said before, but the actual cards themselves would be stuck together and you'd have to rip them apart. Not joking. It was a huge rampant problem with that product, and that was the beginning of the downfall of the card quality degrading to the laughable joke that it is currently.
Well,
that was like not necessarily the cattle, or it wasn't necessarily the beginning, but it was the catalyst that made everything start tumbling down.
I don't
in terms of card quality.
They did that on purpose. Like, I'm still under the impression that Wizards is just the most incompetent company ever. They hire people that aren't capable of doing their jobs. Look at Allison, what's her name, that was hired to manage Reddit, social media, and got bullied, so they moved her to creative writing. Okay, there's a person that probably doesn't deserve to be there. Let's be honest here. Let's be frank. And it has nothing to do with gender before I get accused of that. I would be saying the same thing with anyone that got moved from tech to creative writing or anything like. And if you actually go read Glassdoors, it seems like they do that a lot. someone gets hired on for a certain position, they get like bumped up for no apparent reason, and I actually think Allison's writing is pretty poor. Like I hate her writing style. I think it's just really, really, you can tell she's not a professional writer. So let's just throw that out there with my opinion. It has nothing to do with all the other stuff that other people have problems with.
She's so bad at it that they lumped all of their writing staff together to anonymously post.
Oh yeah, they say anonymous now. It doesn't say who it does because she's probably getting bullied for that. Talk about like white knighting to a T. Talk
about can't standing the fucking heat in the kitchen. Yeah. Like, good God.
But I think the same. I think that's just Wizards of the Coast. It's ramped in Wizards of the Coast. They finally fired the MTGO guy because it wasn't ever getting. It's still an antiquated software that hadn't changed in 10 years. They
hashtag blame Worth.
Yeah, exactly. So it's he was a gamer that was just put on that position. He didn't have a lot of experience in that. He had no business, trying a project that big. There's a lot of those decisions. So I think, and the other problem is I think that also Magic grew too big for its own britches during that time period, and so they had to kind of like shift and try to find a second. If you can actually tell
the sudden boom of Innistrad and Return to Ravnica.
So you won't find me a big stickler on the card quality argument. A lot of people have made it their holy grail, but I just think that's any company with growing pains is going to have that. So I'm not a big, yeah. I want to correct something. Not Salvation Army. Before I get hate for it, I actually don't know much about Salvation Army. It's St. Jude. That's the company I can't stand. And I'm going to call it company for all these people that think that nonprofit organizations are not companies. Because just go and check out how much the CEO and the CFO of St. Jude's makes, and go look at the castle they live in. It's
go look up Susan G. Komen too while you're.
They're preying on cancer patients, and they're preying on people that want to help people. That's all that's happening, and they're making a business out of it. If they didn't exist, there would be a for-profit agency that would take care of the needs of people with those certain health issues. They are not.
If the NFL is dedicating an entire month to your cause, then it's not a cause; it's an advertisement.
Well, just drove me insane because they reached out to me, I believe, during the gamer stream as well, and I just, of course, I was sick, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do. I know that a Wedge, does a. Manosaurus does a big St. Jude's thing. That's why he shaved his head and stuff like. Oh, that is just so disgusting because none of that money is going to do anything. It's all going to go to the pockets of the. They'll say that it's spent on, but actually the vast majority of charities get spent on marketing costs to get more money. Just let that sink that in for a minute. It's just all. It's just all gross. Do you want the best thing you can do for yourself? Spend your money. Spend on yourself. It's called hedonistic psychology. Go look it up. You should be looking for ways to make your own quality of life better. That's the best thing you can do for everyone around you. Because you are no good to other people if you're a mess.
They don't call it retail therapy for a reason.
So expand your circle of influence. Help those around you in need, and then do it. If everyone were to do that, we'd have no problems.
Right. Do it out of your own volition. If you want to help people.
Individualism. It's a huge. That's a huge.
If you want to help people, go to the soup kitchen or go donate at
start on soup kitchens.
Well, or just go do something nice for somebody. Don't just donate money on the internet because you can't be fucked to do anything else with your day.
Yeah. Well.
Make an effort.
There's a new rule: don't bring up anything because I'll have a tangent. Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about soup kitchens because this is another.
You seem to have a lot of trigger phrases.
ENFP, there's a great video, I should link it, about ENFPs are always the ones that are misjudged, because if you go look up ENFPs, you'll see all these girls, I'm an ENFP, I'm bubbly, yay, I love everyone, and I'm quirky, because they think everyone thinks that's what an ENFP is. But the best one about what an actual, especially an older ENFP like me is we are so cynical so pessimistic because at one point in time in our lives we were idealistic and we thought the world was such a wonderful place full of rainbows, and it took those dreams to get shattered for us to become what we've become. And that's why I'm often very cynical and pessimistic. I used to volunteer at a soup kitchen, and I would have the people that would come, the homeless people or people in need, come and bitch and moan and throw their food at me because it wasn't good enough for them. This is free stuff we're giving out, and that was the end of that. Now I go volunteer my times at dog shelters because those puppies always appreciate my company. How's my puppies doing? Get up here, you mutt! And I grab a dog that's sleeping by. Oh, her eyes are red. Come here, come say hi. Come say hi. Come
on. Aw.
She is so mad at me
Man.
right now because she wants to be home sleeping in her bed, and she's still at the store. Look at that. Look at that mad
I'm sorry,
face.
dog.
Ruff. That's Chloe. I'm not going to pick up Scout. He's jitterish right now. Say hi, Chloe.
He's the black one?
Yeah. Hey, Scout.
Hello, Chloe.
Yep. You're a shelter dog, aren't you? Sort of. You would have gone to the shelter. In fact, all of Chloe's siblings are dead now. Sad, huh? Because of idiot owners that don't know how to take care of dogs.
My family just sheltered a kitten. My dad was driving home, and he noticed a kitten out running in the middle of the road, so he went out and he chased it into some bushes and grabbed it. And we got it, and one of its eyes was just completely devastated. And we took it over to a vet to get it looked at, and they said that it had severe impact in its skull. So they think that it was either thrown from a vehicle or it had suffered abuse. Like, it wasn't like a fight with an animal, like it was something hard that hit it. So we were able to get it to recover fully. It barely has vision in that eye. It may be permanently blind, like its vision may degrade down entirely, but I don't understand how some people can just be so heartless towards animals.
Yeah, I know, like, especially dogs. These things will they're so loyal. I've had so many dogs now. It's funny about dogs. I've never picked a dog. They've all been kind of thrown at me. Chloe's actually not mine. It's my sister's, but she's with Chloe and Scout are my sisters, but they're with me as much as they're with my sister. But all my other dogs have just been kind of pawned off on me. But I've always, every dog I've ever had, I've always just loved. Great animals. Except when they jump in your fishing holes. Like yesterday, you punk. I guess actually 2 days ago now that we're at 3 o'clock in the morning. She's such a brat. If you go fishing and don't give her, she wants you to throw rocks or logs to her. And if you don't, she'll cut off your fishing angles and then she'll start barking at you. And then if you really don't pay attention to her, she'll jump in where you're fishing. I should have never taught you how to swim. Now she's looking at me like, what? Yeah.
I was gonna ask, do you watch a YouTuber Angry Joe show?
I've seen some episodes. It's been a long time. Is that the long-haired dude? No,
no. He's short hair. He like jokes about Superman a lot and stuff. He wears a Superman shirt in like all of his videos.
I'm not familiar then.
He, whenever a company fucks up, he says, "You done fucked it up," and here on my computer, I'm just laughing at it, looking at it. I wrote it down as my bullet point saying, "Watsy done fucked it up." I should maybe title my video that I'm making. I bet it'd be instantly demonetized though. But I was saying that because what we were saying in the beginning, when Wizards cards started hitting the decline back in early 2013, 2012, or no, let's see, that had to have been the Fate Reforged Clash Pack. So when was Fate Reforged? That was like beginning of 2015?
Yeah. Yep, because
yeah, that's February, like kind of where I noticed like it started hitting really hard in terms of our card quality. But like, as someone who like runs a card store, like, does that card quality like affect you in your ability to like sell the cards?
Sort of. We've actually returned some. Wizards actually pretty good at replacing rares that are messed up if you do it within their print run. We've actually turned some in to Wizards. So I shouldn't say it's all bad. Sometimes Wizards customer service can be pretty good. You can tell some of them are probably frustrated too. Apparently, and that's where I think Jeremy gets a lot of his information. Apparently, there's some people that aren't very happy either within the WotC ranks, and that's why they leak a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so they seem to have a problem with that.
Yep. So, and I know that Jeremy's actually refrained himself on some stuff because he shared stuff with me before in the past that was way before it was public knowledge that he got from, people. So it's
like what? Are you willing to tell?
Like spoiler-esque type stuff or products coming out and things like that.
Okay.
So it's kind of funny that he's supposed to be some person that they hate so much, but there must be people in the end. There are a lot of people that have privately messaged me and stuff like that saying, hey, I'm pretty much immersed in this, what you call the extreme left culture, and I wish I could speak out, but I can't because I'll lose my job. Just think of Google. Just think of the guy at Google that got canned for his trying to rebut the article. So
on a scale of 1 to 10, how infuriated are you at Wizards for putting iconic masters in big box stores?
10. How about 11? You saw my rant videos when I found Eternal Masters in Ace Hardware, and I'm like, okay. And then we researched. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna because I thought that they were actually getting it kind of illegally because I found out who their suppliers Alliance, and so I'm like, okay, we're gonna have a talk with Alliance. Why are they sending product to? I just got a message from a guy saying that how's the best way to move their store forward because they lost their WPN, and he didn't go into specifics on how he lost his WPN, but they also lost their distributors canned them after they lost the WPN. They just like, well, we can't send you products now. And so how was some hardware store getting Eternal Masters when they have nothing to do with WPN? And so we researched it, and it's like, oh no, they're sending it off to anyone. The distributors can send it off to whoever they want if they have more. I'm like, this is
Jesus.
bull. This is absolutely bull. That they don't have to pay for table space. Ace Hardware does not have people coming. You've seen my store. 2 of my damn rooms are for play area. It is the majority of our store is for people playing in. And we are out of retail space. We want to actually expand into more products because that's one of the burdens of overhead is you have to have enough things in here for people to want to purchase to be able to cycle through that money. If you run out of retail space, it's going to be very hard to make your overhead. In fact, in the restaurant industry, you have to make a certain amount of money per table. That's how they justify it. If they could squeeze another table, your profits go up without making it uncomfortable for either the waiters, waitresses, and the patrons. Then squeeze one in because that's make or break for a lot of restaurants. And so, yeah, it's come to the point it's insulting as a local game store owner that they're giving that crap away. This stuff used to be the only reason to run a local game store was the kind of privileged stuff from Wizards, the stuff that was like a thank you.
Yeah, someone in the comments, Popo, says there was no indication of draft packs until release. And I think I heard, I don't know if this is true, but I had heard that the reason why they're out at big box stores is because Wizards of the Coast had overprinted iconic masters so much and they could not get rid of it that they gave it to a third-party company, and that packaging is from a third-party company that had already bought those packs loosely or in boxes or whatever and repackaged them as draft packs. It could be a rumor, but that's from what I understand.
It still falls on WotC. It still falls on.
Yeah.
And I'll show everyone, this is anticipation because I'm going to be doing this with HQ probably tomorrow, Jeremy tomorrow. We have a ton of screenshots from the Wizards Play Network. They're stupid enough to put out a poll that basically says, let me find it for everyone here. Again, hopefully I can pull this up without really incriminating stuff. Hate sharing my screen just for this nonsense that could. Where is it? There is a poll. Here we go. I think that's fine.
Never assume that magic won't die, Popo. Everything has an end.
So here, this is a screenshot I took way early of this. So it's, if people can't read that, it says it's Nelson Brown, created Wizards Play Network poll. Compared to the past Masters releases, how have your players received iconic Masters? Much worse, worse, about the same, much better, better. 0 on the better, 1 on the much better. Who knows who the hell that is? About the same as 8. Worse was 21, and over 200 at the time were, because this was a ... here, so that was, too high to count. When we last looked at it, there was like it was like over 500 here on much worse. It was like 583 was the last time, and I haven't checked it forever, of much worse. And then there's a ton of comments, and I'll go over them about all the problems that this is a private Facebook page for people on the Wizards Play Network, and I won't tell you how I got that, but I am not a member of this. I've never applied for it, so someone else sent it to me. So anyway, Wonder who that could be. But yeah, so this is the outlook of local game stores. They're all hating it. They're all and whether or not that was a mistake or not, that rests on Magic. They're the ones that they keep wanting to put the burden back over to local game stores. There was a condescending ass comment in one of these Wizards Play Network posts about someone was like, we are losing people, that when you took away the F&M promos, we are losing everyone. Like, what can be done? And they just blamed it the store, like, well, what are you doing to get them back in? What are you doing? It's your...
What are you doing?
There's all these other successful stores.
Why aren't these double-sided tokens bringing in the players, huh?
It's shifted the burden completely back on the local game stores, which is so condescending, because the only reason to have tables at a local game stores is for Magic. I mean, maybe if you're into Pokemon and board games and stuff like that, but there is people that are saying that we're just blowing smoke. You know, I talked to Game Haven in St. George, huge store. They have a massive store down there. When I talked to them at first, their Magic the Gathering sales were 75% plus. It ran the store. I talked to them when I came back. They said they're done at 10% of their store being Magic the Gathering.
Good God.
And that all their players had moved over to Warhammer. Warhammer's a god-awful game. How do people just... I won't insult Warhammer.
Talk about a money sink.
Yeah, I know. And that's how everyone was so frustrated with Warhammer. This is St. George, Utah. It's got a decent population. It's the fastest growing city in America right now. St. George. Google if you disagree with me, if you don't think I'm telling the truth. They have no other game store there. There's only a comic book store that happens to kind of sell Magic. Had one tiny little section with the latest booster pack was all in St. George. If they are moving away from Magic, that is a bad sign, because Game Haven, the entire chain, was set up by a Magic enthusiast. They're one of the very first people to get on the TCG Player and the Star City Games kind of those tournaments used to the qualifiers and stuff like that. So that is bad news. Yes, my local game store is very anecdotal. We have a very kind of unique community, and which was almost exclusively set up for Magic. So I'm going to have a lot different perspective than most. But speaking to the other big box stores, it is getting scary for local game stores. And one of these days I'm going to show you, just go to omnibusiness.com, and they have what's called a margins calculator, and type in how much your overhead is, and it will calculate how much you'll have to generate when you're also replacing the product. So you type in how much you get the product for, what your margins are, and what you need to generate to survive. And you will see even $1,000 overhead is going to be on a 45% profit margin. It's going to be $6,000 or more just to survive. So that's how much you'll have to generate in revenue. If that profit margin goes down to 30%, of course that's going to increase it, not by 15%, but even more, because you have to replace the product at a higher value as well. So
yeah, people are saying don't say that this is going to be the death of Magic, but it really is. If the stores can't afford to be open, the F&M attendance numbers are down. If F&M attendance numbers are down, people less likely to stay in the game or to even enter the game. Those numbers will slowly erode away. This is something that needs to be addressed immediately, because LGSs need to be able to stay open to keep the game alive.
Okay, if the obsessive players actually drive the casual market too, because out of sight, out of mind, casual people will find casual things to do, whatever the hot thing of the week is. It's kind of like the League of Legends. If they didn't have a pro scene or even the hyper competitive scene, even casual players would quit playing the game, even if they still found it fun. It kind of lives or dies with the diehards of it. And I've talked to many other, of course, our consumers, we're about 50-50 at this moment, which we're definitely an anomaly for the kind of local game stores, because a lot of people's traffic is casual, where they'll come into the store, buy stuff, and then go play at home. Whereas our store is about 50-50, 50% regulars, who is the whole reason why we have our stores for them, and then 50% of the people that just come in and buy stuff and go home. We actually don't like those, because they don't a lot of times contribute to the secondary market in the community and things like that. But anyway, that's a story for another day. When I used to talk to other big box stores like Epic Puzzles and Games, when it was in Salt Lake, they are by far the biggest store in Salt Lake City. They could pull in 100 people for F&M. That's how big they were. Huge store, by the way. You can check out their page just to see how much square footage that store is. They told me it was out 90%, was casual. Only 10% was the, and so
Yeah,
local game stores
that mirrors our community.
A lot of them did overestimate their worth, thinking that they were, because casual players can go to Walmart. They choose to go to local game stores because sometimes game stores they'll be there for other reasons or whatever. But
they may be more competitive in their pricing.
I understand that local game stores did kind of overstate their importance, and maybe this is Wizards like punishing game stores for that, because there was a period of time where a lot of them did probably get a lot snooty and make threats and stuff like that, and Wizards might be like, well, let's go to Walmart then, it's selling great there. And I'm actually thinking that Wizards sales at local game stores are down, and Walmart they're still pretty decent, I think, and that's why I think they're still driving over to that, because I think they've been okay with the casual sort of crowd. I don't think there's been a big exodus in casual players. I think there's been a huge exodus in diehard players since Theros block. And I blame Theros for being such a god-awful standard. And then the price of Modern was awful to try to go from standard. I saw so many people quit the games because their Theros cards rotated and they didn't have enough money to buy into standard. And then their cards were not good enough in Modern. So they just quit the game. We had tons of people quit the game. That was the heydays, at least for our area, and still my experience with competitive play. The height of Magic was definitely Return to Ravnica, Theros. And it petered off between Theros and Theros and Khans. And then after Khans to Origins, we saw a massive drop, and then we saw a insane drop from Origins to Kaladesh. So Battle for Zendikar, Eldritch Moon, all those. Because Toolcraft Exemplar, there is your biggest indicator of an unhealthy market. When a 4-of in the most played deck that had over 50% of the meta share at one point in time cannot go above $1, that's people not playing the damn game.
When the problem isn't the 13 for 13 or the 4-mana artifact to get it out, but it was actually the 1 mana or the 1 green mana card and the entire mechanic surrounding it that was the actual problem. Like, their design has just been really weird.
I've been very critical, and you guys can probably say I'm unfair with against Mark Rosewater, and that'd be a very fair statement, because I kind of have an axe to grind with that guy, just because I think he's outlived his need. I think that some people just need to. I mean, MMA fighters realize that when they become irrelevant, they just hang it up. And that's kind of like Mark Rosewater. I think he's been the problem with a lot of the mechanics. He was responsible, of course, for Infect, which is probably the most loathed mechanic of all times. Made that draft format awful. Did anyone actually draft during that time? Oh my god, it was bad. Mirrodin Besieged.
What?
Scars of Mirrodin Besieged.
That's actually when I got back. That's when I started playing Standard, actually. But I'll always hold nostalgic ties to that Standard, though. Like that. People say that era of Delver was degenerate, but I have very fond memories of that deck, because that's kind of how I became a good player, was because of that. So thanks, Watsy, for that design mistake. It was very good for me.
Well, that's how the Rogue Deckbuilder was built, because I built a deck to prey on the Delver decks. And I did it just to prove that it could be done, because people were like, nope, can't be. And then I built a deck that did. And then, but... I enjoyed that time period. Tempo. Man, that was the only time I think I could actually call myself a grind, like someone that actually grinded, like actually traveled to go to PTQs, and that was back in the day when PTQs were only like 1 per state, or region, but Utah only got 1, and so we traveled like Idaho. We'd go to Idaho, Denver, usually where it'd be in Colorado, and hit Vegas, and then the Salt Lake one, and so I was traveling with people and so those were good times too, but that was still growing too. So and people didn't know how good it could be. I actually think the heydays of Magic was Return to Ravnica and Innistrad. That was a fun format.
It really it was. I love that, just that era in Magic and design and just actual community building, not with an agenda in mind, but in terms of like, hey, we want to make a good product and we want to make this appealing to you.
And yes, we had
started.
Thragtusk. We had Restoration Angel and Thragtusk nonsense, but I felt like you could sleeve up any cards and be successful. I was successful with so many different decks.
Man,
So,
God, the Naya Blink deck with like Thundermaw Hellkite and Thragtusk and Restoration Angel, and that was so great. Or, God, just that whole format was. I also really enjoyed that format as well.
Papo makes up an interesting point in the chat. I was talking to Zach about this. I'm like, how can Magic cards be sold at Walmarts anyway? They carry alcohol. Isn't that against WPN policy?
Oh, hey.
And that's
look at that.
You know, there's other stuff. He's surprised how much porn you can find in the place called Family Mart. So anyway, so there was another question. Which designer was responsible for energy? Mark Rosewater. I can 100% say he was. And his colleagues told him to tone it down, and he said no.
Yeah, you were saying earlier about cleaning house. I think we need to go deeper. I think we need to like get rid of a bunch of people in the ranks and just start fresh, because we have a lot of designers that have been there for a very long time and are ingrained in their pathos of how to design cards.
I still think, even with all my bitching and moaning, the worst days of Magic is better than the best days of Pokemon. Or even Dice Masters, my second favorite game ever. Have you ever played Pokemon?
I like Pokemon, actually. I play this really broken Reanimator deck, though, so that's probably why I like it.
That's kind of my bitch about Pokemon is, you know, what makes Magic so beautiful is you can go get one of those welcome decks and have fun with it and play against someone else in the welcome deck. Then you can go play, what's the next most dumbed down format? League, 4-pack sealed, and have fun. And then sealed and have fun, and then start to get into like not quite a competitive standard deck and play someone else against that, and then still have fun. And it's just the game scales incredibly well with what level you're at. Whereas Pokemon is miserable when you pick up an intro deck and try to play as an intro deck. 95 out of 100 games are just who got a Pokemon and who didn't. Who's stuck with a bunch of Stage 2 Pokemon in their hand with not the one that can evolve into it? Because those event decks or intro decks were so poorly designed. Oh, that game is awful. Ugh. Yeah, and then you go to the competitive, as Popo states, and then it's just a legacy tutor deck. It's like a vintage deck. It's all about, you know, playing like what some of them run like 5 energy sources, and it's all tutors to get their 5 energy sources and 3 Pokemon, and it's just all energy sources.
Like, when you look at it, Pokemon is actually kind of convoluted in its design and how you have to sequence cards in specific ways. And you watch kids play this, and it's just like, man, I would not want to play these kids 10 to 15 years from now when they grow up and start playing Magic. It's just like, that game, even though it is complicated, like, it will foster talent among card players. I will say that.
Yeah, good sequencing.
It's very complicated.
I'll give you that. That's where I know a lot of we have a kid named Talmadge. He came from Pokemon. He's become a pretty proficient little Magic player. And I was actually noticing that too with watching some of there's a lot of like locks you have to do correctly. And it does have some skill, but again, my experience with, because I when Pokemon Go became a craze, I'm like, okay, you can't beat them, join them. I better learn about this Pokemon nonsense, because you got to remember my age. I'm a little bit older than Pokemon. Pokemon came out when I was already, out of high school, I believe, or out of that kid's range. I'm 34. I'm old. I have a baby face.
Oh, so I thought you were closer to my age.
No, man. See, now you're going to lose respect for me because I'm a kid that refuses to grow up.
Okay,
that's ENFP personality as well.
When Pokemon burst onto the scene when I was 8 years old, so I was the target demographic when it came out.
So I never really was into Pokemon. So when the Pokemon Go craze came about, I'm like, okay, I'm a store owner. I better learn about this crap. Otherwise, because we had so many people coming in, and that fad died off quick for the Pokemon cards. But I guess it made out for Darium CCG, but we quit selling Pokemon as soon as Pokemon, right after that summer when it died. But we had a lot of people coming in, so I'm like, hey, I better learn how to play this damn game. So we had all these kids coming in, and we were trying to hold tournaments and stuff. And yeah, that was miserable. A lot of the playing intro decks versus intro decks. It was awful.
Yeah, it is. I was trying to teach my brother how to play, and I was having a much more difficult time doing Pokemon than I was Magic. Not because I'm much more experienced in Magic, but because Pokemon is much harder of a game to explain. Like, there's so many different elements to it. Like, your prize pile and the bench. And did you open a basic Pokemon in your hand? You don't? Oh, you lose. Sorry.
Try Dice Masters. You want something that's miserable to learn or teach other people, and then once you learn it, you're like, oh wow, I was making a big deal about something that's actually pretty simple. But yeah, it's so miserable at first. Speaking of which, we sold out all of our Dice Masters today. And I was sad. I kind of cried.
Did you like fire sale it or something?
Yeah, I turned it in. We were having trouble even selling it on eBay. And we're like, maybe we'll do it for a lot. I'm like, screw this crap. Cool Stuff Inc. has some Black Friday sales coming up that will probably last until January. In fact, last year they had sales that were even better in January than they were. You know, we're talking booster boxes for like $60. So, and we actually have a need for older set booster boxes, like the Dragons of Tarkir, Cons, that sort of stuff, Theros, that are still have so much supply out there that Cool Stuff will be dumping out pretty soon.
Right.
So, we looked at price and we're like, you know what, the 25% buy rate that Cool Stuff is offering for Dice Master is better than what we can do. So we got about $300 for it, and we're assuming we are, and so that's going to be like, you know, a couple of booster or you know, $60 a piece. That's 5 boosters. So, yeah, you know, help at least translate into something we can actually move here. But yeah, I wanted the game to be a success, but WizKids is, you want to talk about an incompetent company. They had it. That game is actually good. I will vouch for Dice Masters all day long. Tom Vassell, who does the Dice Tower, which is a very, very popular board game review, rates it as the second best. I think he's called it the second best game ever, is what he ranks it as.
Really?
It's another one of those games that's fun. You can pick up an intro pack and play it, and it's fun, and it's fun all the way to super competitive level. But what happened with Dice Masters is you never had like a gatherer type site to really hash out the rules, and it's as complex as Magic. Like, cards work against other cards and affect the board, and there needs to be judge rulings on stuff. It's because it's up in the air how it would be ruled on, and so you needed someone to actually rule. They're just too lazy to do so. It was just sad to see that they never harbored a good community.
Man, that sucks. Because I've heard a lot about that game. I heard a lot about it because of Yu-Gi-Oh! And
I was really into
Yu-Gi-Oh!
And that's a crazy set though. Except for Blue Eye Dragon, that card is busted.
I think the game actually stemmed from Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I used to be heavily into that series and the manga, and I'm pretty sure that it stemmed from like either a short story in the prologue series before it was a card game, or posted. But yeah, I think that actually came from Yu-Gi-Oh! And it just kind of turned into its own thing.
No, Dice Master Yu-Gi-Oh! Was later on. They already did the Marvel one. It actually came from a board game called like Waffles or something. It existed as just but there was nothing splashy about just basic dice doing stuff. So then they added the very first set was Avengers versus X-Men. So they added the Marvel theme to it.
Oh,
and then
so
Yu-Gi-Oh! Came
Yu-Gi-Oh! Must have just ripped it off in their series or something.
Third set down, I believe, is what. Yeah, because I think that the old little dice game had existed for quite some time. So, yeah. Yep, I am an old man, for all those people calling me an old man in the comment section. Yeah.
And yes, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is awesome for the people talking to me about Yu-Gi-Oh!
I've actually never played Yu-Gi-Oh! I've just picked up a card and Wall of Text. Wall of Text crit me for...
Yeah, it is Wall of Text the game, but if you like playing, or if you didn't like Pokemon for being combo centric, that's all Yu-Gi-Oh! Is. I swear to God, OTK and 1TK are very common vernacular in that game. And recently, Konami, the producers of the game, have been cracking down on it a bit more. But yeah, that game is essentially, how fast can I fill my board full of creatures and kill you in one turn?
Well, that's what I was hearing from a lot of, oh man, there's a huge argument happening because we make our our Yu-Gi-Oh! Players go in the other room, the dungeon room. And there was a huge fight that broke out about something. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go intervene on Yu-Gi-Oh! Players. Yu-Gi-Oh! Players don't watch my channel, right? So I can be as offensive as I want.
Hey, I watch your channel.
And my Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, they refuse to play Magic too. They're like diehard Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, I won't touch it. I don't want to play a game. Like, okay, sure. Well, yeah, it's kind of the only community we have going here.
Right.
We tried other games. We tried Pokemon. We tried Warhammer. We tried what was it called, Malifaux. We've tried all. They just die out. So Magic's the only thing that's been at least. Yeah, and that's sad. If I lose this, what the hell am I gonna do with my life without Magic?
Well, you could do what my LGS is doing, I guess, but you don't really have the space for it. My LGS, since our Magic community pretty much died in that area specifically, they expanded into doing tournaments for fighting games like Tekken, Super Smash Brothers, Street Fighter, and the Super Smash Brothers thing has taken off surprisingly, and they hold like bi-weekly or monthly events or something, and they make like $2,000 per event, and it's just like, yeah, they make a killing off of that. And I just think it's just a change in the industry is coming.
Well, when something dies, something always takes its place. But the whole thing is, I've been a Magic player since I was revised. I got into it in 5th grade. My back to Manuel, my little Panamanian friend, introduced me to Magic. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing since 2004. It's been a very important thing in my life, and just to see what it's coming down to is...
I would say that too. It's actually held some very important time. Back to the Mormon thing. This is how strict my family was. On Sundays, we weren't allowed to play with friends, and that's even strict for Mormon families, by the way, because most of my friends were out doing stuff on Sunday, and we weren't allowed to. So we weren't allowed to watch TV either on Sunday. It's about keeping the Sabbath day holy. So we'd wait till my parents would go take their Sunday nap, and me and my brother would sneak down to his room, and as long as they didn't like hear the TV on, we'd be fine, or like video games or TV. So that's how we got into Magic, because Magic was a silent game where don't wake Daddy and Mommy. And that we're breaking the Sabbath, so we'd play Magic on Sunday. And it was almost exclusively just a Sunday, and then I'd play it at school with friends and stuff. But it's me and my brother playing against each other in my brother's room. Magic the Gathering.
Man, that's awesome.
And then later on in life...
I wish I kind of had that moment. I never really had like a brother or close friend to play Magic with. So I had to take a long break in between Darksteel to like Zendikar. It was a long break, but yeah, until I actually got friends to play with. But yeah, that's awesome being able to play from that age on. And like, I'm sure you spent a lot of those years like playing incorrectly, but just
yes, absolutely. We thought like trample meant that whatever damage was left over, it gained that for the next attack. It was almost like +1 when counters were put on it. We played so incorrectly, but it was actually fun to play incorrectly. Our play group actually got destroyed when one of our friends actually became the equivalent of a net decker back in the day, a magazine decker. Man. And he had money, and the rest of us didn't. Inquester
Don't say the N word. Huh?
Oh no! Yeah, I know. We'll get. He who shall not be named will all of a sudden jump on, right?
Yep. Say it 3 times, and he shall appear in your mirror.
But anyway, it was Scry back then, so he just would look up this for like the last World's deck or whatever that won, and then he was like, he had plenty. His parents spoiled the hell out of him, so he would have plenty of money, and he'd just go buy it all. And that was before the internet. That's how old I am. He'd get on the phone and order it.
Oh man, nostalgia.
Yeah, geez. And then
you actually had to make an effort with communicating with someone. Oh.
High school was kind of a neat little experience for Magic, because I met a lot of people through Magic. We used to play in the lunchroom until it got banned. Satanic. But met a lot, and that was what's kind of funny about Magic, because there's no way I'd be friends with these people outside of Magic. I call them these people. Jeez. A lot of them were just, and no one cared too, because some of them were the people that didn't have friends and were kind of had poor hygiene. And Magic players get insulted a lot with poor hygiene and poor social skills, but I kind of we enforce it at my store when it gets way out of control.
Stigma.
But it's
or a bad stigma, I should say.
Do these people not deserve to have humanity either? Is that what people, because that I feel good, and I've actually had people come up to me later in life by saying that those games of Magic during lunch were the only thing they were living for. were literally the only thing they could look forward to. They had, a lot of people have bad hygiene because they just don't know any better. They're not raised in a situation
Right.
where they learn good hygiene skills. And to be able to be accepted by people just over a card game is magical. And, I won't take those days back. I met some lifelong friends. One of my best friends, I met through Magic. Tangent again. Manuel moved.
But before you go on
tangent.
that tangent,
yep.
I was going to say, I really need to go to the bathroom. You mind if I run real quick?
I will tell my story too. I'll go for it. We'll talk about.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
Pumps.
Go ahead, and I'll be right back.
Oh, Chloe just ran off. Doesn't want to be pet. Hey, Scout, come say hi to him in the chat. I'll keep up with chat. Get up here. All right, Scout won't come up. Come on, get up. Okay, you lay back down. I'm gonna take my headphones off and grab the black dog. Come here. You get over here. Get over here. You get over here. Oh. Say, this is Scout. I'm a shy dog. See, I'm afraid of everything, including cats. See, the most scary thing in the entire world is when the cat comes and sits in the doorway and I can't get out of the room because that cat is so scary. Huh. What else are you scared of? Say, open garbage cans. Yeah, he's a funny dog. You're a good boy, though, huh? You just want to sleep. All right, I'll let you sleep. All right, chat, I'll try to keep up with it. And I miss Birthing Pod. That was the deck that got me back into Magic after my collection was stolen. Made a very, very cheap Birthing Pod deck and was able to win some F&Ms with it. Yeah, I've told that story a ton. Oh, I had a ton of breaks through Magic. It was off and on in my life. Usually I'd always come back to it during states of boredom. And it was kind of an accident that I've stuck with it as long as I have, just because I picked up some pretty lucrative sponsorships early on in my YouTube career that kept me interested enough to keep making it. There have been times I wanted to quit. Recently, about 6 or 7 months ago, I was pretty bored with Magic. You can probably tell my content quality was awful for a good chunk there, but do apologize for that. What other bombshell chat messages have I missed here? I quit after Mirrodin as well. The Matthew took a break from Lorwyn to Mirrodin Besieged. Oh, wrong break. I took a break after Mirrodin because that was talk about a crap fest of a standard. Arcbound Ravager deck versus, what was the other one, like a burn strategy? And then there was some busted stuff that happened during that Skull Clamp, the artifact lands. And then I took a break from there and didn't play for quite some time. I think it wasn't until I got back in versus I think I played the Pre-Release of Scars. No, I played a draft before Mirrodin Besieged was quite out, and then got back in during Mirrodin Besieged, and I think I've been pretty stable since Mirrodin Besieged, with a short break at Avacyn Restored. So yeah, I guess that's old timer for some of us. We got the Tasty back. That was a short break. Tasty,
hello.
Tasty must pee quick. Just wait until you're 30s, man. It's gonna take you a longer time.
What?
Piss breaks.
Oh yeah, I was holding that in for however long, so
it just exploded.
Oh, I am sufficiently relieved. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But man, you know what I was thinking about earlier? It just dropped from my mind, but someone was talking about it in the comment section. Whatever. Oh well, it lost my mind.
Fun stuff. Ever told you about Fat Nathan? No, I'm fat shaming too.
No.
I definitely was bullying in this, so you guys can crucify me for this story.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Did you see the message I sent you on Twitter? Someone tweeted at me a spicy meme of LSV.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's really good.
All right, we'll see if I can. Whoop. I like Magic less now that Jared from Subway plays it. Oh, LSV. Let's
God,
not.
he's like one of the most memeable men
Oh,
in
geez,
Magic.
man. Yeah.
I have like kind of this love-hate thing for him.
Me too.
Like,
Me
I,
too.
I love the game, or I love the guy, but at the same time, it's just like, oh man, you are like riding the fine line,
Don't
sir.
get me started about Gabby Sparts. Do not
Oh,
get me started.
Did you like what I posted earlier today about that?
Yeah, but she just, to me, she seems like I kind of call them nerd predators. That they get into a field just so because they know that they're going to be the bombshell of that and just get all the attention. It just seems like that, she had her husband.
Bombshell.
She had her husband before that was famous for writing a website and made $1 million off of it, and then became huge and famous I have a theory about some of these people, like the more gold digging personalities, that they begin to resent success in their relationship partner. And then so that's first why they acquire them, and then they resent them for it. And to me, it just seems like the typical bouncing from one. I could be well off, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying this. And so, I'm sure we have, but it just seems so she goes from that. And then of course she doesn't make her place in life. I know. Good God. She doesn't have a place in life with her, her husband's still famous and she's not. Okay. What can I get into? So she finds Magic, who is of course poised for any, streamer that could be successful. Of course, let's be honest, she's attractive, but nothing special. Can I say that on air? Well, I just did. And
whatever.
So anywho, so she finds Magic, who is prime position for being able just to hoodwink them and get in. And I mean, I guess I've never really watched her stream or whatnot, but ends up being quite popular there. But what does she do? She goes and leeches on the most famous thing in Magic now to like progress her career. And it would not surprise me if that was just the next step, until she begins to resent that she's not as popular as the other person, and rinse and repeat. Now, I don't know. That's my own diagnosis. There's Kevin diagnosis at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. It could be way off, and I can get hate for this.
I had a similar situation. My dad's previous stepmom, I should say, my dad's previous wife, she was a gold digger, and I could say this with certainty because in the divorce process, they found out that my dad was not, in fact, her third husband, but her seventh. And wow. She had been pretty much making a career out of draining men for all of their money. And we had found out during the process that she was still technically married to another guy while she was still being married to my dad. So that obviously makes it illegitimate. And the thing is, she and her lawyer knew. So once the judge found out, he stripped him of his license and he can't lawyer anymore. And he's also on trial as well. So it's just turned into this really convoluted situation, and it's a very prevalent thing that happens quite often, and it just tears people's lives apart.
Yep. And I could be wrong. This could all come from a place of pure love, just from proximity of working together and whatnot, but it's just suspect, the timing and everything that happens, and kind of heartbreaking to think of LSV's situation with a newborn and all that kind of stuff. It's kind of funny though how, like I said, they'll eat people alive. A certain portion of the ideology will eat. If headquarters would have done that, oh my God, misogynistic.
What the hell? Punk. What happened to the scandal with that?
And,
why did
in all honesty, it's none of our business. But you're right. The double standard just makes you like, okay, right? Because this would have been anyone else.
Louis Scott Vargas he has his hand too far deep into the honey pot. Yeah. He's untouchable.
Yep.
That's fine. Whatever. I don't fucking care.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, again, none of our business, but of course, in this episode at 4 a.m, nothing is sacred. Nothing is sacred.
Nothing at all.
You can find scandals about me. I'm pretty sure I'll never be president of the United States because people can dig up some dirt on me.
So, God, same here.
Yeah.
Then again, my scandals will be that I'm lazy.
Me too. That's my biggest thing too. People are like, if you would have just kept with it, you could be a successful. I'm like, yeah, but you got to understand a lot of times creative minds like mine. Think of like Ray William Johnson, for example. He conquers YouTube and then that bores him to death, so he quits. and everyone's like, "Why would you do something?" Because you gotta.
I remember that, and he replaced his host, and people were okay with him. People eventually got used to him, and then they replaced him with a girl, and everyone hated it. Yeah. And they all left in droves. I remember that.
Yeah, but I mean, his little story was the same thing. He's like, "Well, I got bored," and that's how, like with me, it's hard to keep my attention span for quite some time before something else shiny kind of takes it away. So yeah, that's something I'm working on. I know if Mara's still in the stream, she's probably frustrated with how fickle I am.
So, her and I are talking about what's going on between LSV and Gabby.
Oh yeah, again, that's none of our business. But at the same time, the double standard is real.
It was
you brought it up with the Jared post, not me.
Right, it's some old drama, anyways. I think that happened back in like August. So here we are, just digging up dead corpses.
Yep. Hopefully, there won't be any more dead corpses in the future with that too. So.
Oh God, yeah. Hopefully, it just ends at that.
Is deserved though. What about the what's her name? Magic Amateur girl. What's her name? Oh wait, when am I supposed to say woman? What did Hipsters Coast tell me I needed to say without?
You need to say goddess queen. I don't know.
Who's the one that does coverage now?
Maria.
Maria, credit where credit's due. Does a fantastic job.
Yeah, she does.
And that's someone that I was wishing ill on because they did try to destroy my career. Those two. So.
Really?
Yeah, they were the ones behind everything with the blacklist. So. Yep, them and Ilion TV. Ilion, which is a tiny, tiny streamer.
Yeah, I know
some very private screenshots and things like that by, some people. So, but is what it is in the past. Whatever. But yeah, so again, we here at Fox News try to be fair and balanced, right?
Fox News, Infowars. They're putting chemicals in the water, turning the frogs gay.
I think Wizards did a good job by bringing her on board because it is a person. And again, I have no problem with trying to have representation, especially with someone that is deserving.
I think she does a good job.
Yeah, and she deserves it. Absolutely. And not like I thought, what's his name did a horrible job on the last Grand Prix. What was who I actually like personally, not Paul, the other one, Paul Rietzel, but who did the coverage for this Grand Prix? Oh man, nothing about his analysis.
In Portland,
it was just boring.
And
I'm like,
I don't think I know who it was.
It was almost cringy with how boring it is. So
I just went there and played Commander. I didn't actually pay attention to what was going on there. Man, so this GP felt like dead, like I said on Twitter. Like someone replied that there were only 18 less in attendance.
Yeah, Sam, I saw that. Or Sam, what's his name? Not Sam, not Magic.
Oh yeah,
Sam
Rubin. He's a streamer. And yeah, like it just felt dead. Like this is one of Cascade Games' last GPs, I think. I think that's a big part in it because...
Really? I thought they had them all now.
No, it's Channel Fireball that has them all. No, Cascade Games is a different company.
No, they're the same company. Cascade and Channel Fireball are the same company. That's their... Cascades is their front name, right? Correct me in chat. I'm pretty sure Cascades is Channel Fireball.
Maybe you might be right, but I don't know. It just didn't seem like there was that much effort put into this GP, and it was like drab and dark and like quiet and just, I don't know. It just felt off compared to other GPs. I've been to 3 other GPs, and it just, I don't know.
Well, I've noticed that too because Grand Prix are beyond just the competitive circuit. It's just if the casuals love Grand Prix. And my first experience with the Grand Prix, I didn't even play in it. I just went there to power trade and because it was back in the day when I was kind of intimidated, it would have been...
I went to buy cards and play Commander.
It would have been Dissension, I believe. Because I remember I quit right after that. And it was either Dissension or Guild Pact that I went to a Grand Prix. Whatever the Salt Lake one, what happened to Grand Prix that happened around that time period is when I went to. And it was there are tons of us. In fact, I'd say the majority of people weren't even playing in the main event. It was just everyone was there. And so you might have actually been right on par with it.
Yeah.
How do I feel about voice acting? Everyone says my voice is hideous. I know everyone hates their voice when they hear it the first time recording. That kept me away from doing YouTube videos for quite some time because I thought my voice was so hideous.
You don't have a hideous voice. If you didn't, then I don't think you'd be able to get away with your 30-minute ramble videos.
Yeah. Well, the pacing is what that's all about. You just have to have good pacing, and I think that there is no dead. It's so funny because like when I watch Jeremy's videos, I always put him on 1.5, and same with Torrance Community College. They're always 1.5.
You're not the only one,
and they sound normal in 1.5. If you put me at 1.5, I'm on crack. So,
but God. Yeah, I also put him on 1.5 because he does a lot of long pauses.
Oh my God. And just talking takes him forever to get a syllable out.
Yep. God. Man, so to keep up on the sad vibes, you know Simon Lore, right? Ether Hub.
He's kind of imploding right now.
Yeah, like I feel so bad for him just because I think he's just falling victim to the algorithm, and he didn't post. He didn't post for a while, and that he's fallen out of the algorithm's favor. And he just posted on Twitter like 25 minutes ago because he just started posting Pokemon videos. He says, "Every time I post a Pokemon video, I drop in subscribers."
That has nothing to do with anything. He's getting to that time period. I can say this with confidence after talking to other people. It's going to actually hit Wedge and Torrance Community College soon too. Once you get to about that age, it's like the YouTube purge. And I'm definitely in the YouTube death spiral right now because every other metric of my channel is growing except for YouTube. So
he also says YouTube is no longer a job for me. I want to continue making the content I enjoy. If this means you can no longer watch the channel, that's fine. I just want you all to know why the change happened.
Well, I've got some kind of insider information about Simon Lore because he's been someone that's been pretty close to me in the past. And it kind of sucks too because we had a good thing going with the groups. I put a kind of a proposition out there to all the creative people on YouTube that we should all band together and create a site and all share revenue on what the site generates. And Simon was really one of the only ones that really jumped onto it. And of course, like I said, Kevin and shiny objects come and go. I'm a great ideas generator. I'm a terrible follow through. That's why I should be a project manager. I'm good at delegating tasks. I'm terrible at doing tasks. So I came up with this awesome, made awesome Google Docs and everything and shared it around and tried to get people. I think I had a great business plan on how to get it started. And he's kind of one that, and I think he took a lot of my framework and tried to do it. He actually invited me to join Aether Hub. And I'm like, dude, that'd be stupid for me to drop my channel and start. I'd collaborate with you. I'd love to collaborate with you, but I'm not going to drop my channel to kind of, go on your brand and stuff like that. And I think it was kind of a mistake for him to bring on those other personalities. In fact, I cautioned Gathering Magic, kind of the direction that they were going, with bringing on a lot of the personalities they did. As they went through the death spiral, Gathering Magic did. They were hemorrhaging subscribers and hemorrhaging views, not getting nearly. And so I told them, I researched it and said, okay, quit putting video series in games. Just put it in one big giant video because they'll save your channel because it's all about video retention and watch time, not about views. And so they did that. And I'm also like, hey, you got to cut back on the episodes that people aren't interested in and whatnot, because one of the things the YouTube algorithm does is if you put out a bunch of videos in sequence and less people watch like the second or third or fourth one in a row, it'll quit. It will say, okay, people aren't liking this stuff. We're going to quit recommending it. And so you need to be. You should never put out more than like one video per day. A lot of the times because it just hurts you. You're competing with only yourself. And yeah, the YouTube algorithm's a bitch. But you just have to write it. I'm sure that the way that I'm doing things at some point in time might be the way that YouTube wants it to be because they're constantly changing it. And
they always are. They have to change it because people keep finding out ways of taking advantage of it.
Remember when Lion and Desolator Magic were growing leaps and bounds?
And then they grind into a complete fucking halt?
Because that's the algorithm change. They were getting rewarded by doing something like sporadically just putting content out like crazy, and then now they're being punished
Right.
for it. So my channel is gonna be constantly punished because I'm so freaking old, and I've got a bazillion videos, and none of them are lasting. Like every standard video that I made a year ago is so irrelevant now.
That's why I stopped making standard deck tech videos, because I was a small
That's
fan
probably
on
why Magic
those
Man
videos.
Sam purged all his videos except for his art videos, which makes me sad because I had a collab with him. Aw, my Rogue Deckbuilder mat doesn't get to be shown off in Sam's old videos.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
He purged all his videos but his art videos. So
he privated them because every now and then, because I'm kind of like a super fanboy of Magic Man Sam, I'll personally request him. I'll just be like, hey, do you have this? And he'll send it to me. He's done it a few times, so I know he's probably got them all saved. He just has them all privated.
And he's a very smart guy. I told him. I remember when he was like, "Oh man, Torrey Community College is so big," and I remember chastising him. And I'm like, "Dude, your content's better." I'm like, "You're gonna be because I was his first big plug on YouTube, and he was thanking me for it. He couldn't believe he got like 500 subscribers or something. And like, dude, if you stick with it, you're gonna be bigger than these guys because your content is the best, and it's I don't know." I worry about Sam, and maybe he can. It was awkward. I guess I'm being honest here because it's late at night and there's no way that I cannot be. This is Kevin kind of on drunk mode here.
Late night Kevin.
The Vegas was awkward with Sam because I consider Sam one of the closest people I've met in the YouTube community because when we both were starting out. We befriended each other, and he liked Brewing Decks. I like Brewing Decks. We met at he actually wasn't playing. He actually drove a city away to come have lunch with me, which I thought was kind of cool. He was one of the first fans. It was kind of like, cool. Yeah, it was kind of because I was small at the time too. I didn't have a ton of subscribers, and so it was like, wow, someone's actually gonna come meet me, woo, type thing. And so Sam and I kind of hit it off pretty early, and this last GP was kind of awkward. Just the interaction. He had me sign his mat, and he was kind of like standoffish. And I hope it's not. I don't know. The people he's kind of surrounded with I know hate me. So like Corbin Hostler does not like me, and there's a couple of them that he's definitely hanging out with. So hopefully I'm just reading too much into it, but that breaks my heart with that because he's one of the people I respect more than anyone in the community.
I think he still holds you in high regard because I've talked with him about you. Like when we had that idea that I came up with 6 months ago. I'm kind of the same as you. I have great ideas, but I'm terrible on the follow-up. And that idea that I had between the three of us, he seemed very positive towards you and everything. Like, and I remember in recent videos, like maybe like 6 months old or something, he shouted you out. So I think maybe it was just like he maybe might have been busy that day or something, or like maybe he, like you said before, maybe there were certain eyes that were watching him, but I don't know, maybe that's digging a little too deep. But no, I think he likes you just fine. It might have just been an awkward like situation.
Soap opera here now. Does he like me? That just bugs me more than anything though. If people are being berated by choosing to, and maybe they'll have tons of ammo from this video because we've been very open about everything here, put it on this, and you're gonna find plenty of ammo to do a hit piece on me for sure. But that is very, very unfair if people are judging me based upon my affiliations with certain people, especially with not even getting my point of view. And also, I don't think that I've said anything so outlandish that would blacklist me to the point that I felt the reception of being, blacklisted. So, especially that more hostility in Magic the Gathering video.
As long as you affect the bottom dollar in Wizards' eyes, gotta be cut.
I have affected their bottom dollar. I've brought tons of people to their game, which I know for a fact. I own a local game store in a place that would not exist. Wizards should be bending over backwards to the amount of I've generated for them. That's what ticks me off about like people like Ilion. MC Headquarters likes to make fun of Ilion a lot because his streamer got like 5 people.
I know him.
5 people like clapping in the like. It was the biggest joke ever when they had him be one of the special guests at GP Vegas. And I actually feel sorry for the guy because that's actually more Wizards' fault because they didn't really pump up any of those things. They're like, okay, bring your own audience, and then he's like, I'm just a small streamer that gets a couple views per, type thing. And that was probably very embarrassing. I was under a similar situation when a game store sponsored me to come to Comic-Con and didn't have anything set up. I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just look here and be stupid. Nice. So
right. Don't mind me.
I want to feel sorry for the guy, but how much vitriol has just come out of his mouth about me, which I've never had any interaction with him ever, is just stupid. So, damn. Well, we've been going on for quite a while.
Holy shit!
I don't know if there's any other subjects people would like to cover before I go pass out and get pulled over, because every time I drive home at this time of night, I get pulled over. In my town that has way too many cops that know what to do with. So, last time was my fault. I was so tired I forgot to turn my lights on.
Really?
I didn't get a ticket though. So.
Nice. Small town cops, they're just like, whatever.
Yeah,
feign innocence.
They're just looking for drunk drivers and like, yeah, you're not drunk.
You're just an idiot.
Yeah, they know me anyway. So the police station's right down the street from my store. It's literally in rock chucking distance. So not that I'm saying you should. Geez, man, that could be misconstrued, right? Would that be a good thing though with the left, or would that be a bad thing? Saying we should throw rocks.
Who knows at this point? It could be up in the air. Yeah. They're eating their own at this point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they definitely are.
It's quite great to watch. It's very entertaining and thoroughly, entertaining, I guess. I'm being redundant. I'm tired. Yeah, I need some sleep.
Wow, I thought you were used to this crap.
I am, but I work a combination of night and swing. I work 12 hours from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then one day out of the week, I work from 2 p.m. to 9:30. So I have to work my sleep schedule around that. And it's kind of driving me crazy. I have to figure out a schedule because I'm getting like maybe 3 to 4 hour naps a day, maybe. And it's like very detrimental.
Yeah, I hated graveyards. I hated swing worse than I hated graveyard. But
yeah.
Now I'm on Kevin's schedule, which is as chaotic as chaotic gets. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, you know how I was talking about how we should do the whole podcast thing and everything?
Yeah.
What if it was like this, where it's just like a stream?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine with me. I don't like podcasts. They're not personal enough for me. Everyone keeps saying, put your Rogue Market on a podcast. I'm like, first of all, I'm too lazy. I've already put it on a YouTube video. It's pretty easy just to rip the audio off a YouTube video if you want it. So you make me go through the effort, type of thing. But I like video casts. I think they're more personal. Even though maybe people don't need to look at us just sitting here. I mean, I haven't had anything really up on the screen. And we definitely need to get better at putting stuff up on the screen and crap. Yeah. We need a third person.
I mean, you're using the layout for your gameplay?
Yeah. I mean, I tried.
Hey, it works.
I tried to make another one like this. Well, we got started on this so late to begin with. And then
this is just kind of a spur of the moment thing.
Yeah, I know. I was supposed to do it with like I said with Jeremy, and then he's like his other one went way long, and then he's like, let's do it tomorrow. I'm like, okay, whatever. So you were my backup. You were my sloppy seconds or whatever I want to. I guess.
Aww,
just kidding.
Thanks.
Tasty, for everyone that's not subscribed to Tasty, should definitely go subscribe to the Tastysnackies.
Yes.
And he's one of my favorite people in the entire YouTube world right now. I'm glad to call him a friend. So.
Aw, thank you.
That's one of the beautiful things about the internet. And it's a quote I've always kind of held by if anyone knows who Chuck Palahniuk is, the author of Fight Club. He talks about in one of his books about how he didn't make true friends until he got rid of what's called proximity friends. And proximity friends were only people that were like your work friends, your people in your neighborhood, the people at your school. The only reason you're friends with them is because they're in your proximity. And he didn't really start finding true friends until he started going to book clubs and writers retreats and things like that. And that's kind of how I felt about the YouTube community and people like Tasty. I'm glad.
Aww.
And this is sounding really homo, so glad we met, Tasty.
Oh, well, thank you. That's nice. People usually don't have nice things to say about me, so it's a great change of pace.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that.
Well, any other or lasting comments? Or
right, your subscribers are going to have a nice surprise to wake up to. 3.5 hours.
Christ. I don't know if this hurts or helps the YouTube. I don't give a crap.
I think streaming may actually be beneficial to the YouTube algorithm. I think they want to be very competitive to Twitch.
Yeah, I know. I need to set up my streams better. There's some cool stuff you can actually do with YouTube now. They have very similar things that Twitch does, like subscriber mode, and you can give people badges, and it's like little emojis. I'm sure that they can start doing just like Twitch. But yep, we'll have to look into all that. We'll get better. We'll get more professional, or probably not, as people contest. I think what is it? The people expecting different results after. What's that?
The definition of insanity.
So if you're expecting anything but shit quality from me, I think you're looking in the wrong place.
Yeah, I think it's from. I was just playing it. It's from Far Cry 3. It's just like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting shit to change.
Yeah, some Albert Einstein or other philosopher quote, isn't it? I can't remember.
Right. Yeah. It stemmed from like someone much more intellectually powerful than me.
Yeah.
Some scrub talking about a fucking cardboard game.
Yep. I always keep reminding myself I play a children's card game.
Right.
Me. I'm 34,
here I am.
34.
Whining about the political woes of a cardboard game.
Yep.
Woo-hoo.
Jesus. That's how entitled we are. I talk about privilege.
Right. God. I bet they're just reveling in it. And here I am being spiteful about that. Man, I need to get some sleep.
Yep, me too. Oh, thanks everyone for joining me.
Right.
I guess this will be archived. Hopefully, I don't know what they do for 3-hour videos, but you can come check back and get some hit pieces on me and Tasty, and we will be blacklisted forever. It's been Kevin and good old Tastysnackies.
Have a good night.
Signing off.